Hello, hello, hello. Oh, God, that sounds so bad.
You sound so bad. So obviously, Sotek has come to Nurgle Central, which means Sotek has caught everything known to man.
Yeah, it turns out he just hangs out on the street out front of the house and he just attacks people as you try and come in.
100% true. So if you could out there tell us that you can hear us clearly, that would be good. We've never done this whole side-by-side thing. Are our voices clear? Is everything beautiful? Do drop a comment and tell us what you think.
Yeah, let us know. Once again, I apologize for my voice, but I am feeling much better. I was way worse, like yesterday and the day before, or the night before or the day before.
So when we were doing our Warhammer stream, Grim, the character he was playing, came in with a slightly grim voice. And that wasn't just because Grim had a slightly grim voice. It's because a certain Mr. Sotek over there was going, "I'm fine, don't worry about me."
When you're that committed to the roleplay, you're like, I need to get something to fuck up my vocal cords so I sound precisely correct.
Yeah, it went really well. So, we're side by side. We are in sunny Scotland, which is an unexpected thing to say, but it is pretty sunny.
Yeah, the weather's been gorgeous.
Yeah, it's been really nice, hasn't it? He has literally brought the weather with him from Texas, although the temperature's dropped by, I don't know, a good 20, 30, 40, maybe 100
It's
degrees.
been raining constantly back home.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I guess I accidentally did a trade.
Yeah, no accident. It's great. It's the best. So, first things first, welcome to Scotland.
No, not in Scotland, at Andy's house, specifically.
It's literally here. Literally hilarious. He arrived and he's like, I'm not sure I feel it. I don't know if I feel it. I don't feel Papa Nurgle!
Yeah, exactly.
And he was gone. Yeah, yesterday he was pretty poorly, but today he's feeling, I hope, a good bit better.
Yeah, I'm feeling much better.
Yes. So, what are we doing today?
Today, we are talking about totally not Scotland, in that we're discussing Albion, which is very exciting.
Yeah, Albion is super exciting. This is going to be a fun chat. I've got, as always, a bit of a sprawling intro. Let's see where it goes. I've literally no idea. I made it up this morning while I was eating some chili, because a certain somebody might have brought over some lovely chili spices, which we may have been
Turned out really well.
Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it? But we made it very much a Scottish chili, so... You know, there was a certain amount of Texan. Is this the right way to do things? But
There were like 5 different kinds of beans.
Yeah, we had beans and everything. So yeah, poor old Sotek has got his voice slightly back after that.
Yeah, I don't feel bad. It just sounds bad.
Yeah. So, as always, we'll start off with our super chats. We'll stream through those, have a little answer on them, and then we'll dive into our intro on Albion, which is, of course, an appropriate subject because Albion is the Warhammer equivalent of, kinda, the British Isles. And as we will discuss, they've gone through a little bit of a change over time.
Yep, I'm going to let Andy's read these off because
somebody doesn't feel too well. So, poor old... Bermetal?
Yeah, sure.
Bermetal? Let's go with one of those. Apologies for mincing your name. You won't be able to make it, but you will catch up for the fun later. And hype! I can say hype loudly. A certain someone.
I'm not going to try that.
Just no. So where are we next?
Next, and thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem at all. Magladroth. Oh, thanks very much, Magladroth. Off-topic theory. Well, you know we love our off-topic theories here. Was rewatching Dragon Children's stream. That was a while ago. And for Shenzhou, maybe she went north to redeem one of the dark gods themselves. Thoughts, redeem a dark god.
I mean, obviously, there's a part of me that's like, well, that's ridiculous. But from what we know about Shenzhou, of her being like the light of hope, in a sense, that comes off as something like a naive younger sibling would try to do in desperation to like protect their family or parents and stuff. So I could see that being a thing. I don't think it would end well, but I could see that being a thing.
So if you're going to be using the story of Shenzhou attempting to redeem someone, I think the potentially far better option would be a character like Be'lakor. Someone who is right up there in terms of what he once was, but also right up there in terms of what he means to Chaos. After all, Be'lakor is required by the way that the Everchosens are made to crown the next Everchosen. It's pretty much how it works. And cursed to do that particular job as well, much as Be'lakor loves it. So attempting to redeem Be'lakor could be an interesting way of trying to interrupt that particular process. But yeah, sure. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going for big, crazy stories. Warhammer does it all the time, for example. We do big, crazy shit that are, quite frankly, mental. Take a look at what we did to the Flame of Ulrich in Middenheim, for example. Properly daft. So yeah, go for it. Go wild with it. But I think if I was doing it for my own ones, I would look for something that wasn't more realistic, but most certainly felt like it was achievable for someone who was driven by a desperate desire to make a difference.
And turns out that today we're not only celebrating the fact that we're together as Lorebeards, but we're also celebrating that Laughing God is about to have his first kiddo.
Oh, wow! Superb! Your wife's in labor for her first child, a boy! Hopefully a new Lorebeard fan will be along soon. I hope so too.
Just immediately coming into life, the first thing, look at these two
Lorebeards!
these two nerds, child.
Wish us luck and all the best to your families and the community. And congratulations, the Laughing God. It is a marvelous time. Be prepared for a lot of sleepless nights, but also a great deal of joy. I have gone through that process twice. The first time was a little bit like trying something, strangely enough, for the first time. You have no idea what you're doing, but you figure it out pretty fast. It's the best. Good luck with that. I'm so happy for you.
Also, happy Mother's Day in at least the U.S. and I think my folks are watching. So happy Mother's Day,
I
Mom.
hope it's not Mother's Day in the UK.
No, it's not. It's not.
I have so not done that.
Yeah, well, I think just in the U.S. But happy Mother's Day, Mom. I think you're watching, so I miss you. Bye bye. But let's see. We were then here.
What's next? Hannibal says, welcome Sotek. Welcome Sotek. If you fancy seeing a startlingly impressive model of Hell Pit while you're in the UK, consider that Bradford is now within reach.
I've
not seen Is there a Hell Pit model in Bradford? And if so, how the hell have I not seen this? Is it online?
I thought that was a very mean comment about the city of Bradford itself. Like he was saying the
Actually, look at the winky emoji. It 100%.
Yeah. I think
it 100% is. Hannibal, I completely missed your joke. I feel like an idiot. I am now going to just shrink. I go, I'm an idiot. I was thinking like the local Games Workshop had a giant model of Hell Pit, and I was like, yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh no, Bradford's Hell Pit. Oh no. Genuinely hilarious.
Yeah, sorry, Bradford.
It's just
we have no opinion on this.
I can't say for certain one way or the other. Oh no, I've been to Bradford once. I think. I don't recall.
Was it similar to Elvis?
I don't want to say. Biofoot Hawk said that LOS adjusting his hat on Friday was a reference to the Fishmen.
Yep.
I plotted the coordinates out, and they seem to be leading to the UK. Are you saying the Fishmen will invade Albion?
I'm pretty sure I've seen some Fishmen as I've been moving around, just from time to time. In fact, I think I'm turning into one. Maybe that's what really is happening.
I think I could be. Did you get out your sub? Attack a bunch of them, get back in your sub, but you got bitten, and you've now been infested by the Fishmanness.
Yeah, exactly. That oh my god, that party hat was that poor thing. It lost before the battle even started.
If you didn't watch Lorehammer on the Friday, Sotek has some fun with a party hat.
The VOD will be up on tomorrow.
It'll be up tomorrow. In fact, on that, I was just talking to our corner goblin Erin, and the episode's currently uploading. So if you're an all-access patron, we'll have it hopefully up by the end of the day, so you can watch it early if you want. And for everybody else, it'll be up on Monday, so that's tomorrow at 7 p.m. UK time, which is, I don't know, that must be at some point your time.
1 p.m.
There we go, 1 p.m. over in central US.
Yeah, and when that comes out, I will post that everywhere. If you haven't watched it, you really should. It's a really nice self-contained story while also being part of the greater story. It worked out really well, somehow.
It was really nice. I mean, Sotek had like its whole story within a single episode. It was brilliant.
Yeah, with all like, and we got all that with what, a 45-minute chat.
Yeah. It was good.
Let's see. I'm not saying. I don't know where it originated from. I'll just say it that way.
So Sean Schultz asked, has Andy infected Sotek? And the reply is, I'm saying nothing.
I don't know.
I'm saying nothing. Biofoot. And in all seriousness, I hope your trip is great.
It's been awesome. It's been really good. Like, normally I get Andy and Lizzie have been super generous hosts. It's been really, really lovely staying with them. And yeah, I mean, considering that I got sick, which I rarely do, I was surprised that I was able to power through it. So that was good.
Drugs.
Yeah, they do help. They do help a lot.
Drugs are awesome. Alanalex, that'll do.
Yep.
Always excited for stuff involving Bellicor, fantasy's greatest shenanigans. I'm not even going to say that word. And yeah, you're right, Bellicor's always up to his shady stuff. One of my favourite things about Bellicor is that you'll often find when you do look into all of Bellicor's history that sometimes Bellicor's doing something over here, while also, according to another source, doing something over there. And you immediately, as you often do with Games Workshop stuff, go, oh no, they've done screwed up. But no, it's Bellicor, a demon. It can literally be in multiple places at once. So Bellicor is always fun for Games Workshop's writers because they kind of don't need to worry about contradicting other people's work.
He's probably one of the best examples when you're like, especially the Gotrek and Felix book about him.
Oh yeah.
Of like how he could just be everywhere all the time. Which obviously makes him horrible, especially because this is really, really weak Bellicor. He's not even like close to what he used to be.
Or what he will become.
Oh, jeez.
The Kalantire. I paid £50 for a physical copy of the Albion novel Storm Warriors. Money well spent. Seriously, the Kalantire. I'll mention that one in my intro just because of you.
We had a little chat about that.
Yeah, this morning I was actually looking for it because we recently got all of our old Games Workshop books back from storage, and they're sort of stacked in one shelf, stacked in another shelf in another room, stacked in another shelf in another room. And I was looking for it because the map that you get in the original Storm Warriors novel is fascinating. Could I find it? Could I thump? So I'm just going to talk about the map. £50, gosh.
That's a lot.
Magmadroth, Bellicor. Fantasy's greatest dad. Not.
He's actually, was it an Adam Sandler movie? The one where like he ends up having like 1,000 kids because there's like a mess up. That's basically Bellicor in a nutshell.
Yeah. Not entirely wrong.
Let's see.
Hammond, either Ryan is tall or Andy is short. As it turns
we're
out,
about the same height.
We're about the same height.
Yeah.
It's just I slouch.
I am certainly wider.
Which, you know, given that I was a lot wider, makes me sort of happy, but not because Sotek's wider, but because I'm not as wide as I used to be. But I have a lot of width yet to lose. Yep. But yeah, as it turns out, no, we're pretty much almost exactly the same height.
Makes it convenient.
Indeed, the Laughing God. I hope the stream goes well.
We did this. Yeah. And congrats again.
Congratulations. Yeah, we've done that one already. Czar94, let's go. Glad to see you made it safely, Sotek. Have fun and have a pint for me. Oh, wow. Okay. 50. Oh, that's so generous. Thank you very much,
I really
Czar.
appreciate it. And especially super chats on this stream, guys, are really important because they have been really taking care of me. So all that, reimbursing them for having to deal with my bullshit is deeply appreciated.
In fact, we're going to be taking them, for those of you who know you're Edinburgh, we're going to be taking them over to the Witchery on Tuesday. And if you know Edinburgh, you'll know that the Witchery fucking rocks, or at least I think it does. It's a lovely restaurant, and I'm very much looking forward to that over on the Tuesday.
Here we go.
Dodo Archaeology. I'm creating a fan lore project for Erin based on the real world Ireland. What would you want to see included? So, Dodo, this is one of those ones that inevitably, because I'm Scottish, I immediately dive in, mispronounce every single word. Because I'll pronounce it the Scottish way, because obviously Irish and Scottish have got very similar roots to a lot of their language roots. But we pronounce things really differently here. But that aside, I would, if I was airing it, I would probably be looking for a lot of what actually, to a degree, sort of get hints at in the overall Albion stuff. But you want to go deep Celtic, deep Irish Celtic, with a whole host of myths. You'll be looking for the Fae popping up in a different way. So probably going down the more spiritual route, much like, say, for example, Athel Loren does, where it's all a little bit different there. And you'd probably be wanting to do something similar over there. You wouldn't want to be doing direct lifts, copy, paste, and drop downs from real world myth, but you definitely want to have that sense of those old kings and those old bloodlines that are super important. I'm just noticing things crashing over the side there. I was like, what the fuck? So I'd be looking to have at least some of that along with all the spiritual aspects. But beyond that, I would also want the Fim in there, particularly given that the Fimmer are very closely, very, very closely related to the Fomorians from Irish legend. So you'd be looking for them to have a very strong presence over there. And I'd probably build up their version of Baelor and what Baelor is, or Balor, or however you want to pronounce it. And I would be looking to enhance that story and tie it through to the story of your version of Aaron. In fact, to a degree, I might even have the Fimmer originally come from there. And have that as the source of a great conflict that then spread outwards. And then the ones that are over in Marienburg and around about the Cursed Marshes there are perhaps those who have pushed out or part of an earlier empire. So that could be super fun too. I would also tie it right back to the old ones, because the old ones pretty much land here and uplift in the islands of Albion, as we're going to be covering later. So using that as part of the ancient story that you're telling, I think would be worthwhile too.
Now, I'd also recommend, based on what Andy said as well, just make sure it takes place really far in the past. I think a lot of stories, when people are adding in new stuff, they kind of accidentally get pigeonholed into trying to make it fit into like the 2500s. No, go way back.
Yeah.
Go way back.
Way back. Make it old. Old, man. Necromancer Kobold. So, important question. How would you make an Albionic? Albionic is an interesting way of putting it. I'd have got Albionese, perhaps. An Albioner. An Albioner haggis.
I don't even know what's in regular haggis, so...
Okay, you're going to have to chase it down. You're going to have haggis when you're here, man. I love haggis. I'm not a typical Scottish person. I come from the very north. And believe it or not, in the very, very far north of Scotland, haggis isn't really that much of a thing. It's a thing that exists, but it's far more of a southern Scottish thing. And up in the far north, not. So I hadn't eaten haggis until I came down into, well, I must have been about 19 years old when I had my first haggis. And I didn't even really know. I was like, oh, give us a bite, had it. And I fell in love. I really like haggis. And how to make it? Catch it. Because it's going to have to be something that's caught. So, yeah. Catch it, then boil it up and stick it in a stew.
What is it?
A haggis. It'll be a creature.
Oh, is that what that means?
It really isn't, but it would be a Warhammer. It's a classic joke up in Scotland for people who come from outside of Scotland that haggis is a creature that you catch and we eat the haggis. So yes, Darius Rose, hi. Thinking of getting armies for the old one. Cool. Do you know where I can find info on lore accurate formations, army corps for different armies? I'm obtuse.
Probably the best is there's I don't know if they're still like at the forefront of it, but there's a website called, I think, the Old World. It's like Old World's Armies Builder. If you just Google Old World Army Builder, you can find some really, really reliable resources. And a lot of them are websites that'll let you like build your army. It'll have like all the available options and stuff. You should double check your books to make sure it's correct. But that should work fine.
Yeah, the lore accurate part is the hard part because the old world.
Oh, I missed the lore accurate part.
The old world has rewritten the lore.
Yeah,
completely.
SOL.
The old world has dived in to what was already a relatively well-developed time point, and they've gone, you know, all those things that you thought were there, we're just rewriting them and changing them. So the Wolf Emperors are now like this. The electoral emperors have been changed into this, which means that there are no lore accurate formations because everything has changed, which means that the only place you can really get lore for the old world at the moment really is the old world. Now, obviously, if you're building, say, the Empire, you can go to the more 8th edition version of Warhammer of Empire. You've got the Armies book that came out for that, but you also have the, what was the name of the book for all the banners? And... Armies. Yeah, there's a book that gives you all the colours and banners.
I can't remember. Someone in the chat will remember.
That's really annoying that I can't remember that off the top of my head, but go check that book out for at least some ideas. But it does depend entirely on what army you're going for. And you'll get a variety of different named regiments in that book, but most of those are for 200 years later. But some of those will have roots that are very, very old. But the state army model, as we understand
Uniforms and heraldry.
Uniforms and heraldry, thank you. The state army model, as we understand it, was created by Magnus the Pious, and he's not around in the old world yet. The whole point, the state armies don't really exist, or at least...
It didn't.
And then the old world comes along and adds its own version. So your best bet is, sadly, the old world books.
Yeah, because it's going to be notably different.
Yeah, notably. And laughing God, call your kids Sigmar, I dare you.
Do not get murdered by your wife.
Andy Sotek. Poor kid.
Yeah, Sigmar, Andy Sotek, blah.
Cameo, haven't played the role-playing game before, but have gotten a small way into Lorehammer. Well done, Cameo, and I hope you're enjoying it. I was wondering how you might create an Albion PC if possible.
Super possible.
Yeah, super possible. Super easy indeed. Just take the standard rules for humans that you find inside the core book, and that will give you the basic stats that you require. All humans are basically the same in Warhammer, so we're covered there. All you need is your own unique mix of skills and talents. So if you dive into what a Reiklander has, just inside that book, it'll give you an idea of what you'd get if you came from Reikland. And then just change it for a more Celtic version. So anything that leans close to, say, black powder, that's right out. It's going to be a far more rustic lifestyle with ranged bow, basic weaponry, and things like outdoor survival, and probably in the talent side, something like Strider Marshes, because holy crap is that place marshy. So you're looking for about 3 or 4 talents that absolutely epitomize the place, one of which will be one of your characteristics getting a boost of +5, and the most obvious one's probably toughness.
Yeah, I'd probably do skills for or things for stealthing in rural environments.
Yeah.
If you pick up an art form, tattooing as one of your art forms could be or your performance arts could be good. And then do you want to go more the druidic route of being like a wizard? So you probably want to lean more towards life magic. Or do you want to be mundane and stay away from magic, in which case you can do other things. But yeah, play around with it. If you have a GM, just have some back and forth about it. And you'll kind of be a man in a brave new world, but you could easily do that.
Yeah, and there's also an Albion character inside the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay starter set, because it was included in one of the adventures. So if you want to see an example of a character that was very quickly put together for the adventure book in the Fantasy starter set, you can find one there too.
Yep. Hopefully that helps.
Too many places to look. Necromancer Kobold. Also, how would y'all design a Loch Ness Monster of Albion? It's already happened. It has already happened. Go check out Macdeath, a supplement from 1986, and you will find the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent. It is, however, super old.
That's 3 years after Warhammer started?
Yeah, pretty much. It's super old, but it's worth checking Macdeath out just for the origins of what would become the later on campaign sets. Things like the Idol of Gork, for example, that came out. That'd be Warhammer 5 is off the top of my head. Or the Tears of Isha. But the campaign sets had a very, very early origin, and Macdeath is in there. I'll go into that a little bit in my intro, though.
Yeah, and I would say if you're wanting to spin your own, because of the nature of Albion, which we'll talk about, probably having some kind of Lustrian dinosaur kicking around that's managed to survive is definitely what you could do it.
100%, and it's what I would do if I was doing it again. Dynaman, do we know if the druidic cultures of Albion are the original inhabitants, the ones who built the megaliths? I'll add, oh dear, Imkire OCN text in a second comment to avoid text holes.
Entire context.
Gotcha. Okay, so the answer is yes, we do know. We'll be going into that to a degree, but the great megaliths of Albion, the great stone circles that you will find there, were built by the original druidic culture that, and its later iterations, is known as the Truthsayers. And they 100% built it, and they built it for a reason. And were they cribbing existing stuff? Possibly. It doesn't state exactly one way or the other, but very possibly they were cribbing something that was already there. But it's worth noting that they very much built it themselves. So this wasn't there's some stones, let's just use them. This was more of there's an existing special site, we'll put stones on the top to use the geomantic web power that's running through this area. It's worth noting that the Truthsayers absolutely have a better understanding of the geomantic web than the elves. Doesn't mean they're better magic users than the elves, but they were far more closely associated with what the geomantic web was doing, and they were also far more closely associated with the old ones. So yeah, I think that's that was pretty clear. Mornington Crescent, need to take Sotek to Hull so he can meet the true fishmen.
I don't know where that is, but okay.
And have a fish supper. Hoplite 8, did Loremaster visit Nottingham Games Workshop?
Not yet, but I intend to this Thursday.
It's going to be super fun as well. Yeah. Dynaman 95, in real life, between the Ice Age and the Celts, there were at least 2 mass migrations that basically wiped out the prior inhabitants. Yep. One at the start of the Neolithic, the group that built many of the megaliths, and one at the start of the Bronze Age, who may be one of the British Celts are descended from. And you're right, that's
so this ties into
it ties into the other comment, and you're not incorrect, but in the Warhammer equivalent, we don't have that same clear amount of history to determine whether there was influxes. We do know that the mists of Albion were up from a very early time, and that protected them from almost all invasion.
What I would say, what I would say is you could say there was something there before the old ones came, and then the old ones wiped them out and put the people of Albion that we have now there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can also say that there could have been more than one migration through the course of time too. Just because the mists are there, it is not an impenetrable mist. You can get there. It's just difficult, and when you get there, life sucks, because Albion is not a nice place to be. No. Hey, Roderick. Good to see you there. Hi, everyone. And thank you very much, Rod. Have a great wee time. One day I'll be catching up on this. Thanks for the podcast uploads, Sotek. And for Roderick of like 6 months, a year down the line, hi!
Thank you.
Appreciated.
Yeah, I have to do a bunch more of those when I get home.
Yeah, totally. The Singemeister, where in Albion can you pick Wild Mountain Time? I love that song, Wild Mountain Time, and the answer is probably over on, in the greater scheme of things, most likely to be over on the west coast of Albion, where the bogs have many a Wild Mountain Time, probably down that crap. What's that big mountain crap? That's annoying me. There's a big range of mountains, right? It's got a really stupid name, as I recall. Oh, it's been ages since I last looked at it. Have we got the map there somewhere? Yeah, totally. It's got a mountain range with a stupid name on it. It doesn't matter. I'll pick it up later. But it'll be just on.
Oh, it's the Caesars Peaks.
I'm not sure that's.
I can't tell what that first letter is.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let's pull it out from here. So anyway, it's going to be on the west side, more likely than the east side, given the way that the weather forces are working there. And I'm just going to quickly find out what that big, huge thing is called. The mountain peaks. Oh, it's really annoying me. The Beast Peaks.
Beast Peaks.
That's a crap name. I'm pretty sure that was Gav Thorpe. Gav, if you're watching right now, seriously, Beast Peaks. That was the best you could come up with from the various Gaelic Celtic sources you were running from. I shake my fist at thee. If I was doing that map again, I would translate that into local parlance, because that's kind of the guy I am. But the Beast Peaks. So we're looking on the western side of that. I can't believe I took that question so seriously. You're going to bring you're going to bring that one up.
How's Moorcock involved?
How's Moorcock? Well, I am not giving you a reason to raise your drinks to Michael Moorcock beyond you should read his books.
Let's see.
Fire Snake 905 related to Albion. Has Andy seen the Realm of Chaos cutscene of Bellicor getting cursed?
No, I don't think he has, because it's at the end of the. Oh wait, no, you might have. If you have.
Okay. Fire Snake, I don't recall it. so
yeah.
It's as good as saying, no, I haven't. One of the great joys, and I call it joys because there is a good side to this, of being post-COVID. I, as many of you already know, got COVID badly on the very, very first wave of it, and I was taken out for 6 months. I couldn't get out of bed for 6 months. I was super ill. And ever since then, my memory has been shot to pieces. I had an extraordinarily good memory before that. Now, I have a patchy one. Some things just are always there, other things aren't. And since then, my memories have been kind of loose. So you might go, how could that possibly be a good thing? It means I get to watch something like this again, fresh for a second time.
It's a little silly. It's basically the equivalent of Bellicor screaming at the sky like, how could this situation get worse? And then God literally smites him with a lightning bolt. It's very funny. It's very over the top.
I'll go for that. Yep. So first, don't speak Polish. Apologies for not even attempting your name. Barkakowski?
There you go.
Kowski?
That's good enough.
Barkakowski? Oh no, I have deep apologies. You're gonna have to come into our Discord server and just type it out phonetically so that when you come up next time, I can give it a go phonetically and you can laugh at my attempts of it. Anyway, if there was a dwarf hold under Kavzar, Skaven Origin Tale, why are there no records on that in archives in other dwarf holds or elf libraries?
Who says there isn't?
Yeah, I agree. Just because we haven't heard of a thing doesn't mean it doesn't exist, particularly when it deals with shame. Dwarves don't deal very well with shame. They don't like shame. They take on the failings of their own kind personally.
Yeah.
And when a great failing occurs, which very much happened here, it's very possible that Skaven are a species that is derived from dwarf and human.
I would also say that based on the whole the nature of the tale is hubris. Hubris is a core component of it, and those dwarves team up really heavily with those humans. The idea that dwarfhold probably had really bad relations with the rest of the dwarfholds because they started getting very, very wealthy, benefiting from Casmar's wealth. It could very well be that the dwarf kings essentially exiled them and don't talk about them.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's very likely that not only do we have records, that those records are fairly deeply hidden by various dwarf lore masters in their holds. It's almost certain in their histories, particularly the holds that are relatively close to where, well, effectively where Merglanio is today, Skavenblight is today. So we're looking at the holds of the mountains in that area, in the vaults. You'll almost certainly find, say, Carrick-Harren, for example, probably has got records deep down within about the old trade routes that they had open and possibly got shut because of just how differently things had changed down in that particular area. And very possibly there is even a very old record or two which suggests that a great horrific event occurred in the past. So I think they do have records, and those records will be of differing qualities at different points, but they'll be ancient.
Yeah, especially when you think about like that after it would have happened, there was probably a group of dwarf rangers that like came over the peaks and looked down and just saw how hellish the environment had become, and were just like, "Oh no, whatever the fuck happened, not our business."
Yeah, true fact. True fact.
Also, I apologize if you can hear me blow my nose occasionally.
It's gonna happen.
It's just the situation we're in.
He's in Scotland.
Yeah.
Flatjack78. First time catching a stream live. Way! And also, thank you very much for the super chat. Enormously appreciated. Just want to wish you both the best, and thank you so much for the hours of amazing Warhammer content you have blessed us with. And also, thank you for watching. It makes an enormous difference. Without all of you out there watching us blather away like the nerds that we are about Warhammer, there would be no show. You make this happen. So thanks very much for turning up live. I'm enormously glad to see you out there for the first time watching us actually do the thing.
Yeah, in the same space for once too. The support for Lorebeards over the last 2 years has been fucking incredible. So we really, really thank y'all all.
Yeah, massively thank you all. It allows things like this to happen. Look, hey, look, we're here. Oh, wow. Ginger Glack. I have almost certainly pronounced that wrong. I finally finished the Go Trek and Felix series.
Hey, congrats.
Well, congrats, or should I say the Go Trek and Felix series. This is another recommendation for someone new. What is another recommendation, pardon me, for someone who's new to lore? Also, just got my copy of Dark Deeds! Hey! On that, if you haven't bought a copy of Dark Deeds, do so. You'll find links for that down in YouTube's description for the video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, you won't. Just type in Dark Deeds Modifius and you'll be able to pick up.
Also, Hawk, are you here? So he can put the...
Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing. What would be your recommendation for somebody who's coming in for the first time?
Well, so, okay, if you finish Go Trek and Felix, I would really recommend... Oh, thanks, Hawk.
Thanks, Hawk.
I would really recommend hitting up the 2 big Go Trek books in AOS because there's some stuff in there that I think you'll really appreciate. If you want it to be related to Go Trek and Felix to kind of finish out your experience, I would recommend picking up the Thankful trilogy and the Ulrika trilogy next because they're fantastic series.
Yeah. I was going to say the Ulrika trilogy as well, because it's a continuation of the stories and the characters that you already love. So I would suggest there, and then once you've done that, come back to us again and we can start pulling off whether it's going to be going down witch hunting routes or bounty hunter routes or whether it's going to be a completely different series entirely.
Yeah, I would say that they're best to do next because when Go Trek and Felix, the whole story is fresh on your mind. It adds a lot more cool context.
It really does, and they're good.
Here we go.
The Kalantire. Since Albion is so suffused with Ulgu and is also a path of the Old One's nexus, is it possible that every version of Albion is true? So, the Kalantire, the answer to that is yes. As ridiculous as that is to say, the Warhammer world is bonkers enough to allow for this to be the case. And as I'm going to introduce in the introduction, when we eventually get there.
In 30 minutes.
No, it'll probably be like 10 minutes before the end of the stream. Yeah. 10 minutes before the end of the stream, we'll do our intro. But when we get into the intro, you'll find that Albion has changed a lot, but it's not just changed a lot, it's moved a lot as well. And that's... in many respects, it's almost the shining example of how much Games Workshop sometimes screws with its own background. And for some people, it's been a source of frustration, but for others, it's a source of inspiration because they look at it and they say, well, let's just assume that all of them are right. How can we make it work? And you're already one step towards potentially answering that question.
Yep.
Hammond, Sotek haggis is made from the boiled drop bear part. We don't have drop bears here.
That's what everyone says, and then they get drop aired.
100% true. Lachlan Bold. First time I have caught you live. Well, hey! I'm delighted that you managed to catch us live.
That's a sweet message.
I wanted to thank you for helping me with my chronic depression with your passion and enthusiasm. Well, Lachlan, from my side, I come from a household of mentally disabled people, with me standing amongst them going, yep, totally mentally disabled.
They're very nice.
We're bonkers, in a nice way, sure. If he says we're nice, I'll take it. But yeah, I am delighted that we can help you through whatever particular situations you may be dealing with. On our side, we're constantly dealing with stuff, but we do our very best to try and ensure that we just keep on doing the things that we love doing, regardless of what our stupid brains try to squirrel us away into doing.
Yeah, anything that can, break you out of those kinds of things, they're nasty in that they're kind of cyclical, and you just gotta get yourself out so you can start climbing up. And it's okay if you fall back down a little bit, just get back on it when you're ready.
Yeah, whatever works for you to break those cycles. And this is one of the things that works for me because every week without fail I have to be here. And as as was noted earlier,
otherwise I will message his wife. Yeah.
He's having now seen us at our side. He's like, I'm surprised you ever get there in time. I'm like, yep.
I'm the same. I have no room to talk. The fact that I wake up for Lorebeards most weeks is insane to me.
Colbo, hello, wonderful people. In my limited experience as a man from an entirely different island in the Atlantic Ocean, there's no shortage of hospitality in the UK, so I'm sure Sotek will recover from his illness in short order. I hope so, Colbo. That would be nice.
Yeah, I cannot express how much better feeling. To be very clear, I'm pretty sure I was either sick right before I got on the plane, or
I'm catching it next week.
Yeah, hopefully not. Or when I was on the. Hopefully I think it was an infection, so hopefully it's not spreadable and it's just me. Because I started getting worse and worse with each passing day, and I think probably yesterday or the night before yesterday was when it was at like its peak. But by then, I was with Andy and Lindsay was super nice of taking me somewhere where I could get all the drugs I needed, which made it way not as bad as it was.
Yay, drugs.
Yay, drugs. thank the Lords for drugs.
Yay, drugs. Krem Gelto, our favorite person.
Look at that fucking...
So for those of you who are just listening to this as a podcast, Krem Gelto has an image of us with him between going, hey!
Can we legally send him cease and desist? I feel like we should.
Speaking, because we're not going to be speaking today, of someone who's everywhere and horrible. Feel that tickle on your neck? Feel that tickle on your neck? It's me! I'm right there where you're not looking. Tee-hee-hee. Screw you, Krem Gelto.
So I'm not sick. I was poisoned. I see what it is.
Yeah, now we know. He's
being near such a corrupting influence of decay.
Adding drops of poison into your juice. Dynaman! Info for those who want to make Celtic-inspired stuff for Albion. The surviving Celtic languages are two main branches. One has Irish Gaelic, the other Scottish Gaelic. Gaelic and Gaelic. Not Scots, that's different.
That was so confusing the first time I learned
Gaelic
about
and
that.
Gaelic?
Yeah. I got in trouble because I was on a tour the first time I came to Scotland, and they started talking about it, and I was like, are you talking about Gaelic? And they're like, what did you just say? And I was like, you're saying Gaelic. Do you mean Gaelic? And they were like, no, sit down and listen.
Gaelic and Gaelic.
I got a whole speech.
And Manx, the other is Welsh, Cornish and Breton. Funnily enough, Pictish, which used to be in Scotland, is on the second branch until the Scotty came along from Ireland. Absolutely true in all cases. It's, is there anything else worth saying on top of this if you were looking for Albion stuff? No. This is, however, a good idea for if you're looking at any world building to not forget that multiple languages inside smaller islands are common. This is a thing that should be done. And when you're doing your world building, going for those monolithic cultures where everybody just works
Especially
together.
for my fellow Americans.
Yeah,
it's an easy trap to fall into.
It's just not what it's like in the real world, nor was it ever like that in the real world. It's not how people move, migrate, and learn, or indeed segregate and then move off with their own versions of language, Gaelic, for example, and the different pronunciations from each that have developed over time. So, yeah, good stuff to look into. Ricky Scotty, bit late. You're not late at all. We haven't even started.
Yeah, technically we haven't started, so.
But I love the lore. Stream looks great, thank you. I tried the OVN Albion mod recently. How accurate is it to what we know as canon? No idea.
I haven't actually played that one in depth yet, but generally they do a really, really good job. The OVN guys will basically go out and just find everything they can. Now, obviously, you can make arguments about Warhammer has a thing of like, what do you consider canon versus what do you not? And generally, when the mods are trying to fill out factions, they'll use everything they can find, which can result in them using things that someone like me or someone like Andy might look at and go, well, I don't want that.
You went with that.
Yeah, but that's totally within their right and totally fine.
Yeah.
So I would say it's probably fairly accurate. There might be like a couple things that I would look at and be like, which is like how I felt about the Famir mod. Like I liked most of it, but there were a couple things I didn't agree with. But a lot of the stuff they did was written by like some of the original creators of the Famir when they were working for Warpstone magazine, or they got pulled in for Warpstone magazine, which isn't official. So I don't consider that canon, but you could easily argue that it is in a sense, because it's like, well, it's like the same people that made the original one. So it's a matter of interpretation.
Yeah, 100%.
He's back. You can try again.
Thanks. By the way, short version of my name reads Peshemic. Have you seen that Carrick Zorn is marked on the overall map?
Yes.
What do you think it has marked precisely at all? Why do you think it was marked precisely?
The thing that caught my interest in particular is, if memory serves, which I'd have to have the map here to look at, but if memory serves, it's not marked as a ruined hold, which is super interesting. Granted, we have to see what GW is going to do with it, especially because their map has had some
Changes.
So I don't take everything at face value on the map right now. Like, when I look at the Darklands, and I'm like, I'm not sure if they intentionally moved the Ruin, like the Black Fortress and the River Ruin like this, or if they did it on accident, because both are completely possible.
Yeah, totally. So, I don't trust that map because it is a map in development, a map in progress. I'll give a single example from almost the genesis of the map when it first got popped up online. They did a whole version of Kislev in that map, which looked like the second edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay version of Kislev. And then a month, 2 months later, it turned into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay first edition version of Kislev, as they went away from all of the developments that had been made to Kislev and kind of rewinded time and put it back to the first edition, which is cool for a different reason.
But it wouldn't surprise me if and when Kislev becomes playable, they go back again.
It wouldn't at all. So all of that map is something that's in progress. So whenever something pops up, I tend to go, interesting choice. I'm not going to think too hard about it until I know for certain that's what they're sticking with.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
Super Orlok, love you guys and love you in turn.
Or no, the modern one is this.
Yeah.
You got to be modern, hip.
I am not hip. 100% not. Quickone, Quick1? I have no idea. Don't have time to watch much of the stream today. You will be missed. Due to my anniversary. Oh,
Congrats.
No, great, congrats. But wanted to send some support and wish Sotek a wonderful and safe trip. And thank you very much for the support, appreciated. Enormously appreciated. Hammond, how do you harvest Centaur milk? With your mouth?
Very Oh, well, all right. I mean, Grom does say they're sweet boys, so.
Marathi, everyone's favourite. I actually ran an Albion Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4 game, did a lot of research on pre-Roman Britons for it, and made some wacky tribes. I should toss it on the website. You absolutely should. Definitely should, because the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay community thrives on its web content and its fan content that pretty much kept it going between its first edition into its second. Without all of its fans constantly making new material, the game would likely have died, but it didn't. It just kept on going and going, meaning that when the second edition came around, there was already a huge existing fan base of players. So yeah, keep throwing that stuff up because it keeps people excited and interested in the game. And it's a fun place to play.
Plus, you never know who you're going to inspire. And as GW gets older, new people come in and they're going to want to adapt the things that inspire them. So you might inspire new things in the future.
Absolutely.
Or they might just steal from you if you're Matt Alfred.
or if you're me.
Or if they're Andy.
Yeah, 100%. Watchdog 3079. What do you think the magic situation is in Albion? Stronger, less controlled by the old world standards? We'll be going into that because the magic in Albion is not like magic elsewhere.
Yeah.
It's got its own thing.
We'll go into it. Yeah, it's so different that when you would play an Albion campaign, there's a special chart for how the Winds of Magic work.
Yeah, there's a lovely little quotation which is something along the lines of, "Wizards arrived, tried to make fire, boom! Enormous fire!" All of their spells got unexpectedly boosted. And then they were like, okay, well, I shall throw this giant war spell. Zzz, pop, and it did nothing. So yeah, magic in Albion is an inconsistent but potentially very powerful thing.
Yep. Here we go. Misclip.
Hammond, Andy, have you checked if you have long COVID? Oh, I have been to the doctors more than you need to know about this. Let's just not discuss my health.
Yes, would probably be the safe answer.
Holy crap. Aleph Flux, on duty for my last shift as a paramedic. Oh, before going to medical school. Oh, well, I hope you do well and enjoy it.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck indeed. Thank you for getting me through the bed delays. I'm bed or bad. Hard shifts and I've got to know if it's bed or bad, whether it's a typo. And commutes. What's the best way to reach Albion, Sotek? See any coatls as you flew in?
Bro, flying coatl would be so much nicer than flying economy class. That being said, in an ideal world, the past of the old ones would be functioning, but unfortunately they're built like shit, so.
They are, and they're dangerous as fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can't travel anywhere these days.
Yeah, Dynaman. I just noted that the Albion maps on the west, it says "Here be Wales." I know it does. It's a funny little joke.
Yeah, it's a pun. Yeah.
I'm not sure if that pun is great or terrible. It is both. Probably both. Indeed, it is both. Greetings from Cymru. Cymru. I said it wrong. I know he even put it there. I'm actually appalled. I have so many Welsh friends. Mark, if you are watching, I apologise. I mangled your country name completely. In fact, we were discussing this because of the naming use in, of all things, I've now forgotten the name of the game. You know, Trench Crusade, that's the one, where they named it Wales. There are certain Welsh people who were not happy. But yes, Cymru.
You good? Okay.
Yeah. Here be Wales is great.
Yep.
I think it's a great pun. I
We'll
love it.
talk about some of the good and not so good puns that showed up in this particular era.
Some of them are curious. Godzilla 2021 just turned 24. Excellent Victory Day in Europe, indeed. Just passed. And now Mother's Day. Lots of events in May, isn't there? I think the most important event is obviously, and my tongue is firmly in my cheek, us getting together.
Yeah, it's Loremaster's Day, obviously. Or Lorebeards Day.
Lorebeards Day.
Everyone should be off work, getting holiday pay.
Obviously. Emmett Taylor, big fan of Lorebeards. Thank you very much. And your super chat's appreciated. Sotek's videos got me through my Celtic Studies PhD.
Can't imagine how those were helpful in the slightest, but sure.
Who cares? They got them through. That was great. Currently researching how the depiction of druids in pop culture changes over time. A lot. Could you give me a reading list for druids in Warhammer? That's not actually a very broad one.
I got you.
Okay, go.
So first, you're going to go to the Lawhammer Patreon. And Andy has put up a handy thing for life wizards, and you're going to go read through that, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of shit. Second, Cubicle 7 has an official book out now, which a lot of it was stolen from Andy's old stuff, it's, I think it's Archives of the Empire Volume 3, talks a lot about druids and things.
And takes a new spin in them as well. I remember when I first read it, I was like...
you can also go back to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd Edition, Tome of Salvation.
Tome of Salvation.
Yeah. So that gives you 3 very different spheres to look at. And then with Old World, you can actually pop into the new Lords of Magic a bit, because they have like elementalism, and I think Is Druidism one of the new lores?
No.
No. But I won't be shocked if it becomes one later.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprised, particularly given that we have obviously the Albion campaign as well, which used druids, which they renamed to truth speakers as well. So check out the old Albion campaign for Warhammer 6th edition. So that's somewhere else to check. Also, the Enemy Within campaign has got a druid in both versions of it, so you'll find that druid in Death in the Reich. So Death in the Reich is another good place to go. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1st edition also provides you with a complete druidic career and all of the druidic spells that go with it. And it's interesting to see how that's changed over time, because we have the original druids from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1, which become Jade Wizards later, and then after that become both Jade Wizards and Druids, and then after that become the Truth Speakers as well. So there's lots of development for the Druids throughout time. Hey, Crim Gelto, you fucked your joke with no proofread. Cries, shits, please.
Good, get the fuck out. Nobody wants to hear it.
I would also like to just make a small apology, because I did call out the proofing errors.
No, you should have. He needs to hear it.
The calendar, thank you for humouring my questions and theories anytime. Lorebeards and Lorehammer are my absolute joy. Thank you very much. And snap, long COVID nuked my memory, lungs, and immune system. Yeah, I have the immune system of someone without one nowadays, which is obviously marvellous.
Hang in there. Keep up the good fight.
Colbo! Honestly, it's a bit odd that Albion never had a tabletop army, considering that James Workshop is a British company. Then again, we already have two arguable British factions in the Orcs and the High Elves.
Actually, I would argue that Games Workshop has made almost every faction a British faction if you look at it closely enough.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily false. The problem with the Celtic army, if you want, is that the miniatures never sold that much. By the time the original ones from back in the day, and the time that all the factions for Warhammer were kind of nailed down, they already had too many armies. The shops were already full with different miniature codes, different box sets, different army lists, and you tend to find in each edition, they never actually got round to doing all of the armies in each edition. Each edition does a chunk, then we hit the next edition that did a chunk, and they never really finished it. I think
6th edition was the only one
that hit
everybody
through them. 6th edition was basically the great reset button, and and still I think 6th edition is kind of great because of that. Completely jigged everything. So loosely speaking, they don't have space. I mean, the second we start this argument, we go, where's the Tillians? Because as far as most British people are concerned, the Romans are their history, god damn it. Where's the Arabians? Where's our Estalian kingdoms? There's so many places that haven't been done. I don't think it's really that odd, but I do think it's a bit of a gaping hole.
Yeah, because especially if you go crack open a 3rd edition core book that has all the factions, there is a staggering number of factions. Like, it's crazy how many there are.
Yeah, true fact. Hey, I don't know. I'm
Sean DeWolf.
Sean DeWolf, thank you very much. Is it Sean DeWolf? Or is it Sean DeWolf?
It's Sean DeWolf.
There's different ways to pronounce Sean.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, there totally is.
It's just Sean.
Okay, so Cian DeWolf. Are there any?
That's what I did the first time.
Significant naval powers in Albion, given the mist. Wondering if Games Workshop put a Firth of Forth or a Scapa Flow reference in there. Yeah, no, not really. And the populations that we have in Albion are nowadays a little more than effectively Dark Ages Celtic populations without any real awareness of naval travel. Having said that, though, if we go to various books, you always get these weird references of, and they trade with Marienburg. And you're just left going, wait a minute, how does this work? And older writers often forget that Albion got changed significantly in the early 2000s, meaning that as we pass the 2000s, a couple of writers just drop a weird reference to Albion that doesn't make sense with its current version. But loosely speaking, the answer to this is just no, but it's also kind of yes if you listen to some sources. Hey, Dynaman, I just had an idea for an Albion merchant who is like, okay, if you buy a pie, snack, and a drink, you can get them all at a reduced price, and the practice quickly spreads over the island as a good meal deal. Yes, yeah, totally. I think that's definitely something that should happen. It's the sort of stupid pun that or reference. Well, UK meal deals are a thing where you buy yourself a sandwich, a packet of crisps, and a can, or a bottle of juice.
I guess we have those too, but they're not like they've always been there.
Yeah, it's 100% a thing over here. And much like, say, for example, the Ginster pies, which were those packeted pies you got all over, becoming Rumster pies, becoming the primary Rumster clan. Those sort of little references and jokes to British culture proliferate throughout pretty much all of our old world stuff, which is why Sotek earlier said pretty much all the armies are just British versions of whatever it is. Look at Bretonia. Bretonia is basic.
The Empire's German. Yeah, sure.
Yes, sure it is. It might have references to and look German, but often, yeah, it's not. Yeah, agreed. Ricky Chapman, our players in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, just had an encounter with Skulltaker and Albion. Oh crap. One of our players, to everyone's surprise, was able to clash blades with him before jumping onto their ship and running like hell.
I assume that your players must have like 50,000 XP or something. Or Skulltaker was playing with his food, which he does like to do.
Yeah, well, he does like to play with his food a bit, but he also likes to run it through.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he likes to play with food that's important. So obviously your character was important.
Which is great.
Hey Kurishima! Coming to the US after 2028 for a special Dark Elf episode, Andy.
Well, let's see where the world's at.
Yeah, let's see where the world's at in the future, assuming that my country has been blown up because of some ridiculous conflict that erupts across Europe, or alternatively, whether the US is even still one nation.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man. Hey, Fergie! Thanks very much for the super chat. Appreciated. Gents, been following you for ages. Sotek's Lorebeards helped me understand the setting when I played Total War 2. Lorebeards is great fun. Grab a couple of pints from your local.
Appreciate it.
Appreciated.
Thank you.
Enormously.
I'm gonna let you do your intro.
Are we actually done?
Yes, I'm gonna run the restroom real quick.
Okay, good stuff. So,
I'm chugging water like crazy.
while poor old Sotek is trying to not feel ill, I think it's time for us to finally do our intro. It has only taken us an hour. It's only been an hour! So, Albion. Where does it start? Where does it begin? What is this place anyway? For me, Albion begins all the way back at Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition. It's not the first time Albion pops up, but it's the first time that it popped up for me. So we're going all the way to the mid-80s. And Albion is given its first real map details here. And we get a world map and also an old world map in that book. And in the world map, we get ourselves Norska, depicted as we kind of know it today, and this big island that sticks off the end of Norska, which is, interestingly enough, almost exactly the shape that we end up having for Albion much later. But on the old world map, if we take a look at that, there is no Albion. Instead, there's a little arrow pointed at the very top corner over at the top western side where it says, "The Misty Isles of Albion in this direction." In the same way that you find on a lot of the older maps, you get an arrow at the top of the old world that points upward and says, "This way to the realms of chaos." So Albion was somewhat similar. It was this misty, distant, weird place that wasn't really detailed. This didn't last long, because not long after that, we get ourselves, about the same time actually, Macbeth. Now, you might not have heard of Macbeth, but the second you hear it, you'll never forget that name again, because it's proper silly and it's an obvious reference to Shakespeare with Macbeth. And we got ourselves an entire campaign box set called Macbeth, the tragedy indeed of Macbeth. And it is pretty much an almost copy-paste of Macbeth into Warhammer, over in a western part of Albion. Now, it doesn't give you a big map of Albion, it just gives you a map of the local area, and it's all kilts and Dark Age stroke medieval Scotland mixed with Warhammer. An entire campaign set, hello again,
Hello.
that explains what it's like to live in Albion, and we get our first real details for what it's like to live there, and as it turns out, it is like living in Dark Ages Scotland in this particular part. So Albion, from this point onwards, kind of got this weird Dark Age to medieval age feel, Celtic, and that's what people ran with. And this was used for Albion all the way up to around about 1991, when Storm Warriors was released, a novel. Now, up to this point, we knew what Albion was. Albion was a sort of Celtic-y, British-y sort of place that was all misty and weird, and might have had a map that was shown in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition as an island and that's about it. Storm Warriors blew that away. This novel, which was presented by, it was written by Brian Craig, as I recall. Brian Craig spun a story with Orfeo, it's his minstrel, explaining what happens to a bunch of elves that crash land over on the western coast of one of the islands of Albion. For those of you who know current Albion, you might go, one of the islands? Well, yes, because this version of Albion, and go check up the Albion wiki page. You'll get a lovely map of it up there. The map from Stormwarriors, because Stormwarriors had a map with 4 big islands and a whole ton of tiny ones. The biggest island being Great Albion, Great Britain. Okay, but we also had analogs. It's very subtle. We also had analogs for pretty much all of the UK countries as we understand them today, plus Ireland. So Ireland had Erin. We had Great Albion for effectively England. We had a Welsh and a Scottish component as well. And this story largely deals with the Welsh component, their king, getting invaded by elves who definitely aren't dark elves. That's not a spoiler. Look at the cover of the bloody book. They're all dark elves. And that's the tale that Orfeo tells his Arabian captor throughout the course of that book. It's a fun book, but it consolidated what Albion was in everybody's head. It moved from being a sort of medievally sort of version to deep back into Celtic times. And these are a Celtic peoples who speak Celtic languages, Celtic humans with Celtic tribes. And when you combine that with what was in Macbeth, we ended up with effectively a version of the British Isles and Ireland, all mangled together up in that area. So, that's Albion. We're probably not going to get an army. There's going to be dudes with kilts in the north. There's going to be druids kicking around because, hey, that makes sense. And that will do, right? We'll just continue to have Albion throughout time, slowly being mentioned here, slowly being mentioned there, but never getting an army because it'll be like Tilia, or it'll be like, I don't know, Estalia. Not quite. As time went on, Albion was referenced several times, but by White Dwarf 200, things changed. So we're now in 1996. And White Dwarf 200 bought out an old world, in fact, a whole Warhammer world map, and Albion was on it. Now, we'd had a few maps by this point, and they had always taken Jez Goodwin's map from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition as the standard, which gave you all the old world, including Norska, and Albion was away from it. Just away. Really away. And it pulled Albion down to the same place that it was on the other map from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition, where it's pretty much attached to the end of Norska, as if something had chopped the pair of them in two, and there was a gulf of water sitting between them. And this version of Albion changed things significantly because we went back to the original shape, not the shape that was presented inside Storm Warriors. In fact, that book was roundly kicked out. That didn't happen. We have our new Albion again. And this new Albion pretty much became the standard. As various Warhammer maps came in, this island that used to be way out got closer and closer and closer into the old world, until eventually any description of the old world says, and Albion, and Albion, and the mist-shrouded islands of Albion, and Albion. It's clearly now become a part of the old world. And when I say that it has drifted from what would be our equivalent of the middle of the ocean into what is now the equivalent of something like the UK and Ireland to Europe, I'm not exaggerating here. Many of the maps had it way out, far beyond what Iceland is today, and brings it right in. I remember having an argument during Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Second Edition time as to the location of Albion. And this was an argument with Black Library, where I said, the studios moved it. And the person who was the contact at the time said, no, they haven't.
No, we don't do that.
And I said, no, really, the studio has moved it. The maps have changed its position. And I cited my sources, to which they said, ignore those. And I was like, all right, what am I to do? I am but an employee. I shall do what's required. And then literally 6 months later, I got a call saying, why did you move Albion? It's meant to be moved. Have you not checked everything up? And I was like, dudes. Because
so lovely.
During the 2000s, we have some significant changes, but not necessarily in the way that you might expect. Because Albion is always this place that is inconsistent. We have isles that are in the medieval times, that are in the Dark Ages, that are Celtic, that include people like Malachi Machyson, probably coming from the north of those islands. And then eventually we have our first proper update for Albion. Before the great campaign, the summer campaign that happens in Albion, before that point, Albion is just this distant island that moves around and is sometimes multiple islands that are somewhat equivalent to the real world United Kingdom and Ireland. And they dot about, and honestly, they do change a lot. If you go back through all the various maps, you're going to find them all over the place. But as this one comes in, and we see Gav Thorpe's reimagination of what Albion is going to be for the new version of Warhammer, at this point, 6th edition. We're looking at 2001 now. And the big summer campaign comes out, the dark shadows draw in, the campaign involving Be'lakor's attempt to effectively take over and escape these islands is super fun. It adds tons of details. It gives us a big, clean, new map of Albion for the first time that includes the incredibly badly named mountains that I've already forgotten about because I don't want to remember the Beast Peaks because it's a stupid name. But it it does have some really good bits like the Isle of Wight, which, you know, the Isle of Wight is an island right at the south of England. The Isle of Wight's right at the south, of course, of Albion, covered with undead. And
but just like real life.
yeah, just like real life. So they create this super new fun place. The Citadel of Lead is positioned right where Nottingham would be for, well, Citadel miniatures. Sitting right there, because obviously they made lead miniatures. Right in the very the middle. Down where Stonehenge would be, the great circle of stones were placed. And they changed the background for Albion entirely. Completely. They confirmed that the human populations there were very much Celtic aligned. Think of Slain the comics if you've ever read any of those comics, because that's very much the general tone. We're talking proper Celtic, tattoos, wild hairstyles, staffs, and the island itself, bog, bit of mountain, bog, rain. They basically take everything that is a UK stereotype and they dial it up to, as Warhammer is often wont to do, to 11. The place is almost eternally raining, eternally enshrouded by mists, and is indeed a homeland for humans, Fimmer, and a few others. They discuss an invasion of orcs at one point. They discuss how the Norse have come in at more than one point. But broadly speaking, this is a human society that lives on these islands that are cut off from the rest of the old world by the great banks of fog that are around it. And they explain where they come from. We'll go into that. But the most important detail from all of this is that the ruling class here are a group called the Truth Speakers. And the Truth Speakers are, if we're just going to rub away a little bit of what lies underneath, druids. They're druids. They are 100% druids. They are the old druids from Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and they are the ones that are supposed to be the originators of all the old faiths that exist across the old world from a long time past. The great families of druids that exist there, which is super fun. 6th edition completely rewrote Albion. It's a big island. That's it. We're good. Then Gotrek and Felix comes along.
No.
As Gotrek and Felix are wont to do, Bill King goes, I'm going to write about Albion too. This is going to be great. And in there, you will note, for those of you who read closely, Albion is a bunch of islands again.
Whoops.
But broadly speaking, the core of what had already been established inside the campaign, the summer campaign, wasn't really overwritten in any way. Here we get the concept of the past of the old ones and how that they can be used to effectively create chaos invasions almost anywhere, and they need to be shut off. And Teclis comes in and goes, ah ha ha, of course I will help thee to do this. There's definitely no bickering between dwarves and elves in that book in the slightest. And of course the glorious heroes by the end of that book resolve the difficulties of the paths of the old ones.
Totally saved the day and not just a setup for the shit about to hit the fan.
100%, and quite clearly mark that it's not going to last for very long, maybe 20 years before the end times come, and that'll be it. And a period of time that's really ill-defined, because if any one of you out there have attempted to do a timeline for Gotrek and Felix, you'll know it makes zero sense in the slightest. We went away for 20 years, but there's not that many years left in the world. What the hell? Yeah, there's some real timeline problems with Gotrek and Felix, but what we can say for certain is Albion was effectively reiterated, but not much. They didn't really change much, so we can very easily say, that was just a recording error by Felix, as he was writing down his bits.
Or,
one of the... Well, you want to say?
I was going to say, or maybe when they were there, it was.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah, I actually wanted to pull up Charlie's comment.
Quite a fun lore fact to use, that Albion isn't a fixed place. It changes, but not really in a chaosy way. You know what? That is something you could do, and as I think is worth now noting. Before we dive into exactly where the mists come from and what happened there, what I will say is that the lore up to this point makes it clear that the Albion Island, or islands, is at the very heart of what the old ones were doing. That simple. More so, arguably, than what was happening with the Slan in some places. It is the very center of Old One intent, and we'll discuss what they were doing there. There's not a great deal of lore in it, but there's enough to just go, okay, that seems pretty freaking important. There is more than enough for us to go, yeah, there's something there. And what was done afterwards when the cataclysm comes more than easily justifies those mists doing more than just enshrouding things. Now, I need a drink. So, from that point, we've got our 6th edition version. Gotrek and Felix do their stuff. Albion's up there. Be'lakor does this crazy thing. Our campaign is concluded. We get to have a winner and a loser from that campaign. Be'lakor, as we all know, loses, because that's all Be'lakor is destined to do. Be'lakor loses the big, huge holiday resort that he had, since I'm just going to copy what Zarask just dropped in with a comment there. Albion was the Old One holiday resort, and Be'lakor loses it. But of course, he does escape to go do some end-time shenanigan things, because we, of course, need to crown Archaon to bring about the
Because in
end
true
of the
Be'lakor
world.
fashion, he loses, but it's always loses, but
Exactly, which is what makes Be'lakor such fun. And yeah, that's a good one.
It's my favorite girl.
Agnes Everett says Be'lakor is my favorite girl failure. Yeah, 100%. So what we have here is a pretty solid rendition for Albion. We get an idea of what happens, but through the course of this campaign, Albion changes significantly. We have an entire new imperial province founded there. Lizardmen take over huge chunks of it. This place becomes the focal point of a world war, and people come from all over, and because of that, Albion changes. Meaning that the Albion that we have come the end times is, one would presume, super important and cool. How much is there in the end times about Albion?
Well, I think even just saying how much is there in 7th edition about Albion.
Or 8th?
Or 8th. Yeah, it kind of just mysteriously fucked off somewhere.
There's freaking tons of stuff about Albion. Loads of it. But it all comes from a very discrete chunk in time. If we go back in time to the beginning of Warhammer, there's a lot of Albion stuff. And there's lots of Albion miniatures, often dudes with kilts, most of it to support Macbeth. As we progress through time, however, Albion gets either no detail or all the detail for a campaign, making it extraordinarily important.
Yeah, when someone does remember it, they dump.
Yeah. Meaning that all we really have is, when we turn around to say the Monstrous Arcanum, there's a little bit of a reference here or there. We have the Fen Beast popping up again. For those of you who know Fen Beast, they were originally introduced in the Dark Shadows.
Yeah, Storm of Magic just flat out brings back Truthsayers and Dark Emissaries.
Yeah. So Storm of Magic does it, and the reason for doing so is because the Storm of Magic book is 100% talking about when magic goes wild. And Albion, that's their par for the course. That's what it's like for them at all times. So some later books bring back small snippets here or there, but Albion never really gets its big story. It never really gets its conclusion. And we've discussed before multiple times in our various chats about how the end times was clearly rushed. It didn't conclude all the stories. It didn't take everything into account. And it brings things new to the table that possibly shouldn't have been brought to the table because something else was already doing it. And the big one here is Albion. Albion is clearly marked as being of extraordinary importance to the world and to the old ones. Huge. So much so that it had to be hidden. and it was hidden. Come the end times, those mists break, and the world rushes in, and the mists rise again. It's a core component to trying to take the world out. But with our version of the end times, that became Middenheim. Because they turned the focus of attention from what was the previous lore to a new story, which was we'll focus it on the Empire. There's a part of me that's still a little surprised they didn't just go, fuck it, let's just make it Altdorf. But they were very much running on the Storm of Chaos plotline and reiterating the Storm of Chaos plotline, which was another summer campaign. But loosely speaking, Albion is a place of extraordinary importance. It has shifted around, moved about, and also...
GW in a nutshell, yeah.
Yeah, best we can do is inconsistent maps. And it has also been, when we reach the end, completely ignored. So that's what we're here for, to fill in all those gaps, because Albion is, as it turns out, an extraordinarily important place that is full of lore and importance. And as we dive our way through this, we hope that you will come to the end and agree with us too.
Yes, I think so. I think we're going to get caught up with Super Chats here.
Yeah.
And I also want to say...
muffin baskets.
Indeed. Yeah, we'll get to that in just a minute. And Orchidol, thank you for the raid, by the way. Thank you. We don't have cheese on us, but there's some cheese if you make your way over that way. We shredded some for the Texas chili. Well, the Scottishified Texas chili we had earlier. All right, let's get into this, and then we'll carry on with some topics.
Stephanie Michaud, I pronounced your name wrong. Hello. Have you ever thought, I'm going to do this with every single name, maybe I should just stop mispronouncing them on purpose. Have you ever thought about what the original precursor species of human elves and dwarves were like before the old ones uplifted them? Could it be possible that some survived? So, yes. We get out detailed in a couple of books what, for example, the old humans were like, and they were little better than apes. These, however, are very, very old lore sources, so they have almost certainly been overwritten by later ones, but no one's yet to overwrite it. For example, if you go to the Drachenfels novel, which is a novel from the late 80s, as I recall, so Drachenfels by Jack Yovel, that's Kim Newman, actually speaks to what Drachenfels was when the old ones came.
Yeah, he's basically Vandal Savage from DC.
He was there, and he saw them come, and the other humans around were pathetic in comparison to him, because obviously he was better. But he remembers that time, and that was before humans were uplifted by the old ones and changed. So, have I thought about it? Yes. What were they? Can't be certain. There's been a whole conversation, for example, in the Lawhammer Discord, where they're saying that very possibly humans, elves, and dwarves used to be six-limbed species, and the humans turned them into something completely different to try and support that idea that all species in the Warhammer world had 6 limbs at the beginning, because some people like that. But yeah, what thought about it, is it possible that some have survived? Unlikely, but possible, because everything is possible in Warhammer. But it has been such a long period of time that you might find that it's not so much that they've survived, it's that they're a different species now, and perhaps a species we already know.
Yep. I will say first, dwarfs with an F, but yeah, with respect, but thank you. But also, yeah, it gets kind of weird too, because there's some things like for the dwarfs, for instance, that there are some allusions to the ancestor gods that almost imply that they were shaped out of like literal metal or the earth itself, which obviously feels mythical, but at the same time you're dealing with the old ones where shit can get weird. So,
and there is obvious allusions to the idea that the elves were never mortal, in that they were spirits that were brought into the material realm. So that's also something that can be run with. The initial species and what they were, it's difficult to determine. But what we can say from the Albion material that we got is that humans were not considered to be worthwhile uplifting. There's a lovely little aside about it. And as the old ones were tinkering with them, they realized that they were exceedingly adaptable and capable of taking on things far more readily than the more solid, closed-minded dwarves or the elves who were lost in their great emotional spirals. And the elves, the humans in their short lives, were able to build quickly and do things quickly in a way that they didn't expect. So they ended up uplifting them and doing things with them, and that's part of the Albion material. Hey, the Singemeister Sotek! How have you found the UK weather so far?
It's super nice. I mean, it hasn't rained once since I've been here.
Yeah, it's been
clear,
really nice.
Blue skies, sunlight. It's been very nice. Can't complain.
Yep, agreed on this side. It's been absolutely lovely. It's lovely enough that I've definitely got the air conditioning on in here just so that we don't accidentally get a bit warm.
Yeah, and if anything, it's like,
Kobo, Dark Elves in Albion. That reminds me, in Total War, there's a landmark in Albion that's apparently a beach black ark. What's the deal? Permanent colony or messed up holiday resort for raiding?
So it's a reference to the Albion campaign.
The Albion campaign.
We will get around to what Total War does with it, because what Total War does is actually super interesting. But we'll get around to that.
Yeah, 100%, and it's exactly what it is. The Albion campaign is... It's actually it's a pretty cool campaign. I really liked it. It completely repitched Albion, added a whole bunch of new stories. It added old material like the Druids back to Warhammer. I ended up having discussions about this when we were doing the second edition. I was like, can I do the Druids, please? And I got a reply from Black Library that said, Druids don't exist anymore. And when I copy-pasted everything from the campaign, they were like, oh, right, yeah, good point. No, we don't want them. So I didn't add them into the spells that I was organizing for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd Edition, but it was an argument that then allowed me, when I did Kislev, to do the Hags and to do the Ice Witches. Because the Druids and the Truth Speakers already existed out there, showing that the winds of magic could manifest in different ways. And that was really
If
handy.
you ever want to play a really frustrating and it will kill you drinking game, you should do the amount of times GW says, no, you can't do that. That's not in our IP. And then they do exactly that about 2 to 3 years later. Oh my God. They are so inconsistent.
But, you know, it is the way it is.
Yeah. I'm still going to give them shit over it.
That's what you should. Charles CK, pardon me, it sometimes feels like Be'lakor is perpetually trapped somewhere.
He is.
Is that just the thing? Yes. Also, glad to see you guys together. Love the show. So, just on its simplest of stories, Be'lakor is kept in a
We'll
state
talk about it.
of absolute insanity, where it can't think clearly or do whatever is needed until the eventual arrival of one of the Everchosen who needs to be crowned. And then he has an almost impossible to ignore compulsion to go all the way up to wherever the crowned minion is, that's to crown the next Everchosen in his moment of sanity, as he gets to look down at the thing that he wants to be doing. So Be'lakor is underneath the curses of really all of the gods, Tzeentch mostly, all the Chaos gods, that is, Tzeentch mostly, to be this, perpetually trapped somewhere. But he's not the only one trapping them, because after all, it's a big nasty demon, and if you happen to find that kicking around in your area, like say, I don't know, Mordheim, you're going to do whatever you can to try and stop this from affecting you. And yes, it does get trapped again and again.
Yeah, the most important thing about Be'lakor is, if you like your SCP stuff, Be'lakor is the classic question of, if you were dealing with God, and God was a destructive, angry, petulant asshole, how do you deal with it? You can't kill it. You cannot kill it, so what do you do? And there's all sorts of different methods that are used to try and deal with Be'lakor. Probably the most notable, Tzeentch is obviously the most successful, but Tzeentch is also the biggest dick about it, because like Andy said, he's literally trapped in a other realm of eternal madness and suffering until he wakes up just enough to remember what he just went through and that he's about to go back in.
Yep. Sucks for poor Be'lakor. Be'lakor, just to finish off this particular route, grew to the power where he could challenge the 4 remaining chaos powers, the big ones, and he was of almost equal power, and that arrogance, that claim to power, was something they could not and would not allow. He became a material god in the realm of chaos, right at the very top of the world, with arguably thousands of demon princes sworn to him. He was a god, and they smacked that god down and said no. It probably wasn't an easy fight, though.
Yeah, and so it's been thousands of years of him just with a spoon scraping his way free.
Yeah, totally. Tragic character, first demon prince, screwed. Michael Jacquard, hey guys, hi. I was wondering how possible it is for a Slaanesh champion to be obsessed with war as an art form and hates how Khorne acts, thinking Roman general and his legions against barbarians.
Yeah, that's not even unusual. That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. This is a classic for people who are obsessed with art, the perfection of things. You'll find this pops up in roleplay games a lot of times, because there's often gods of perfection or character types that work towards perfection. Take, for example, let's choose one that's random. Vampire the Masquerade. You've got the Toreador clan in that, which is an entire bloodline of vampires that try to make artistic perfection. One of their core examples of that was a martial artist who's attempting to become the perfect version of that. They take things to excess, as does Slaanesh. Think of anything that can be taken to an obsessive excess, and Slaanesh has got someone there trying it out.
Yeah, whether you have your champion that's goal is to like land as many hits as possible before killing his target, or a Slaaneshi whose whole thing is never being touched.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So this is fine. The biggest issue with a lot of Slaanesh representations is that they often fall into like one of two broad categories. The sexy Slaaneshi over-the-top version, or alternatively
like
on the other
Hellraiser.
side. Pardon? Yeah.
Like Hellraiser.
But they often go a little bit more strappy than Hellraiser.
Yeah.
They're more sexy than Hellraiser, where Hellraiser is all about an excess of sensation, which mortal men confuse with pleasure. And they think is pleasurable and absolutely is beyond anything like that. Or alternatively, a gluttony of some sort where they go a bit too far in excess there. And the rest of it often just fades into obscurity. It kind of just doesn't get used very much, with an occasional character hero there, but most of them manifesting on the sort of sexy leather strappy side. So it's really nice to move outside of that particular area.
I've particularly enjoyed AOS's, in some ways, rebranding, or not rebranding as in brand new, but like going back to God of Excess Slaanesh. Not, I remember when I was first getting into Warhammer Fantasy, it felt like in Warhammer Fantasy, Slaanesh was the god of pain and pleasure, not the god of excess. Which I think excess is a much more suitable and broad label, which helps.
Agreed entirely. Psych, all the numbers. On one occasion, I thought the island in Night of the Blazing Sun novel was next to Albion.
I haven't read that novel in a hot minute.
Neither have I, so I can't off the top of me remember what that one is. So, Psych, if you've got extra detail, do drop it in. I haven't read that novel.
Do you remember
the
name of the island? That would be cool.
Oh, so I do know that Old World dropped down High Brazil as one of the, effectively an equivalent of High Brazil, a classic mythical island off the UK, on one of the Old World maps, but it got dropped. That vanished, much like many of the Old World map details. They just drop over time. That one, that's annoying me. I'm gonna have to go check that one up later. The comment here, Giant Slayer was my first Warhammer book. Still my favorite. That's lovely. It's a good one.
I mean, I wouldn't usually recommend starting in the middle, almost pretty much the end of a series.
Yeah, it is.
But it is a great book.
Yeah, good book.
Fantastic book. Because that was Bill King's last one, right?
Yeah, I think so. Welcome Tree. Are there any human elves that worship Sotek here?
Here is an Albion? No. Well, okay, so technically the answer would be no, but because of something Andy specifically wrote, it's not impossible.
Correct. So Sotek as a deity is real. There's a god that is Sotek, and that god goes back for quite some time. And as an etheric entity, there are methods of potentially contacting it in one way or another. Are there snake deities in the old world? The answer is yes. Would it be appropriate for a snake deity to be driven out of Albion? And the answer is yes, because that harks upon old Irish myth as well, of the idea of all the snakes being driven out of Ireland. So I would personally, if I was writing this, I would say no. And that at one point possibly there was an attempt to bring up some sort of snake deity worship, which was driven out of Albion. That would make, I think, a lot of sense and would make for a lovely historical detail. But as it stands, that detail doesn't exist. But if I was writing it, in fact, I almost was going to be writing it because I was going to be writing an entire Albion book at one point, that would be included.
I would actually really love that, because that would also have like the fun consequence of, you could see they chase Sotek out, because Sotek's all about blood sacrifice. Like that's his whole thing. He doesn't care about many other offerings, and it's brutal. So like humans being like, this is too much, chasing him out, but then that leaves them vulnerable to the Skaven because he's not there guarding the deep tunnels.
Yeah, love it. Great Ogham is on the Albion maps. It is indeed. Does Albion use something similar to the Ogham written language that was used for Old Irish? For example, yes, indeed. There's a whole bunch of Ogham examples there, though in reality it would have been vertical on the sides of the stones. So is there some form of Ogham language? The answer is yes, and that language is used by the Old Faith across the Old World. It's not just in Albion. For example, there's a bunch of stones, the Talastine stones, which use a form of Ogham, written on a great Ogham. that talk about the very thing we were just discussing, which was a bunch of old gods that used to be worshipped back in the day, one of which was a snake deity. So the answer to this is almost certainly yes, but because it's never been properly detailed by a writer, often it's required over on the roleplay side because that's where you get your detail. Albion's never had that detail properly. So we don't know is the correct answer, but we can presume the answer is yes.
Muffin, thank you very much. That's super generous. Wow.
Muffin, thank you. What a splendid birthday treat for me. Andy and Sotek able to slap each other.
Yeah.
For lore corrections in person.
If only you've seen the violence over the last few days. It's terrible.
It has been awful. Love Lorebeards. Hope you boys continue this ongoing for a wee while longer. Lots of love from Dunfermline. Oh, you're just over in Dunfermline as well. I can always reach out and touch you. Which direction am I in? That way. So you're just in that direction over there. Thank you so much, Muffin. That's enormously appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. And it's been a very good... We've gotten to have some really awesome discussions. It's been a good time.
It has been good. Dynamite, I recently visited Pentre Ifan, I almost certainly pronounced that incorrectly, a megalithic site in Wales that archaeologists think was a dolmen. However, according to legend, it was built by and inhabited by fairies. What are fairies like in the Warhammer world, and are they a big thing in Albion? So, yes.
Though sadly, as we'll get into, they're not what they used to be.
Yeah, 100%. So if you're wanting to take a quick jaunt through what the Fae and fairies generally appear like in the Warhammer world, just dive through the Wood Elf books.
Yeah, the TLDR tends to be that they are small etheric spirits.
Yeah. Whenever you see words like spites, and similar, that's generally in reference to the Warhammer equivalent of fairies. It's worth noting, though, that the broader idea of more of the elf-like fairies that you might get in lots of Scottish and Irish myth, when we're looking at the Seelie and the Unseelie, for example, or the Sheelie and Unsheelie, depending on which pronunciation you prefer, they would be better represented by entities in the Warhammer world like dryads, hamadryads,
you're more
naiads.
Like,
but
spirits that can take on bigger aspects.
And really interestingly, in their natural form, often look like elves.
Yes.
Okay, which does indeed lead you to suggest to our earlier question, which was, are there any proto-elves? And the answer is very possibly yes.
You know, that's actually a really interesting Wolfrope thing of like, I can almost imagine an elf, if that was the case, or if they found evidence to think that was the case, you wonder if an elf would feel like that violated the elves, that they were like, the old ones took spirits and put them into flesh.
Yeah. In the same way that certain spirits are live in trees or live in rivers or live in great rocks in the middle of rivers or some equivalent. We know they exist in the Warhammer world. We know they look like elves. We know it. It's written in multiple places. So what do fairies look like in the Warhammer world? From elf down to tiny little pointy-nosed evil little buggers.
And there
flat little
and there are of course some spirits that are basically gods and they're horrifying. And they're like huge. But
yeah, totally.
Your mileage may vary.
Correct. Hey, Tyrant Man! Just being this close to the chosen of Nurgle has always killed something.
You know, I always knew that Epidemius has 6 other guys in the same category as him. I didn't realize Andy was one of them.
I'm just sitting here laughing away to Papa Nurgle. Ho, 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 ho. Jonathan Scott, Albion collapsed the day they invented whiskey. Probably did. Whiskey comes in various forms across the Warhammer world, and that's mentioned here or there, either as whiskey, and there's a whole bunch of Aka, like the water of life equivalents that pop up. So it's definitely there. You often find it popping up whenever someone goes to Albion. You'll find one of them has managed to get some Albionese spirit. So yeah, it's definitely a thing. Whiskey exists over in Albion.
Albionese firewater.
Yeah, quite. And how that is translated depends on the various writers. Perversely, he's never seemed healthier.
You know, you say that. There was a really funny moment yesterday where Andy kept being like, this better not be a fucking cough. This better not be a fucking cough.
Yesterday I was certain I was going down with something. We were about halfway through the day and I had to stream for Inside the Rookery, which if you haven't watched it was a really good one. It was about GMing. And we give a whole bunch of GM advice on how to be a good GM, how to be a starter GM, how to GM for the first time, for example.
Hawk, if we could post a share link to that episode, that'd be great.
That'd be cool, because a chap called Keller came in, a lovely guy, who does DMing tips online on his YouTubes and his TikToks. And we had a really nice chat, but halfway up to that chat, I was like, oh, don't you fucking dare. Don't you fuck it, I'm not gonna get ill. Fortunately, I have managed to pass all of that over to that side of the room.
I did the Mr. President get down for Andy when I got here. Yeah.
Marathi, I drew from the idea of lake bursts and other Celtic flood myths with water just bubbling up from the earth and the isle becomes isles sometimes. You know, that might not be a bad idea for dealing with that.
That's a very cool, like, less insanely magical way to deal with it.
Yeah, particularly if you decide that your Albion, much like Norska, does have, say, for example, glaciers in the peaks. We could even have some of those glaciers melt, or we could have one of them fall into the water, causing a tidal wave.
Especially with how magical it is, that would actually work really well.
Yeah, it would work really well. Or possibly you could have a similar grounding, a landslide over on the Norskin side, which causes a tidal wave to swoosh out towards Albion. There's lots of ways you could handle that. But bubbling up is nice. Yeah, I think that's great. Charles C.K., the timeline we have numbers for in Warhammer are way too short for evolution to actually happen, correct? Could old one times have been longer than we think? So there's two things to say here. Number one, the old ones accelerate evolution. Number two, magic. Magic changes everything. Magic at its very heart is almost like evolution and acid. You get yourself completely surrounded by enough warpstone or the winds of magic, and each generation that passes can be significantly changed from the previous. Mutation is common. Evolution works by often tiny mutation and the occasional macro mutation, assuming macro mutation evolution is correct, and it appears to be. So it's generally tiny increments of mutation. When you take the Warhammer world full of magic, suddenly mutation of that time combined with evolution means that we can, particularly for short species, lived species like humans, end up with completely different types of humanity in different parts of the Warhammer world, purely because evolution is multiplied in terms of its speed. So the answer is old ones, magic.
Yeah, a lot of magic is an accelerant for almost all things. So yeah, shit gets crazy.
It certainly does.
Mr. Grumbler.
Hey, Mr. Grumbler. What's your opinions about the earliest Warhammer literature writers before the Black Library, the Interzone generation, Baxter, Pringle stories especially? Do you think do you think are they influenced by Warhammer in their later career? Do you think they're influenced by Warhammer in their later careers? So, what's my opinion of the earlier Warhammer writers? They're it's interesting. Right at the very beginning, Brian Ansell had a clear idea for what he wanted for Warhammer, and he wanted it to be their unique thing. They were, Games Workshop that is, working on licenses in the early 80s, a great deal, and often importing American product. So D&D, for example, or RuneQuest, Stormbringer, whatever it might be. And taking these great products and basically releasing them to the UK. And he wanted Warhammer to be their own one, and he was ultimately a miniatures guy. And when they were building their own world, he hired in established authors, not people who were fans that wanted to give Warhammer a go, not someone who desperately wanted to write for Warhammer, but actual established writers. And they brought in, hopefully, good stories. And what's my opinion of them? They didn't necessarily all grasp the Warhammer world well, but in some cases, they established the Warhammer world. And they established it in a way that really surprised the people who were involved with it at the time. I remember having a discussion with, I won't give names, but someone, in fact, 3 people were in the room at that point, and they were discussing the Conrad trilogy, which Sotek and I were just discussing.
Oh yeah, because I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, the Conrad trilogy, one of the first set of novels for Warhammer back in the day. And the Conrad trilogy is not great. It's not good Warhammer, and it hasn't got enough books. In 3 books, they sort of finished the story.
I was looking over the back, and I was like, starts in the Empire, goes up to the Chaos Waste. What the fuck?
Yeah, there's all sorts. And the stories are not that great, but for many who read them, particularly when they were kids, they defined Warhammer. The same for Kim Newman's books. They absolutely define Warhammer. To this day, Kim Newman's works are being referenced again and again and again in Warhammer, whether it's the End Times, where we had the Nameless, whether it's over in the roleplay game where Drachenfels pops up, or Genevieve pops up, or any of their various other characters that came from then. So, were they influential? Oh, god damn straight they were. And it's really funny to think of these books that were written something like 30, 35 years earlier, often even before that, have been not just influential, but are still influencing Warhammer to this day. So, yeah, is that one.
keep hitting the wrong. This
Hey,
mouse has so
Sapanza.
many buttons. All right.
It does have a lot of buttons. It's my old gaming mouse. Sapanza, make sure to pronounce the H in Nottingham. I hear they love it when you
Nottingham.
do. Nottingham. Yeah, it's not Nottingham. Nottingham.
The first time
They do love it, so you make sure you say it every single time.
Sure.
Good night, Bugmans. I would like to have a beer in this here Nottingham.
I cannot tell you how many. It took me a hot minute to get Edinburgh like even close because as American you only go Edinburgh. It's definitely a burg.
Edinburgh.
I don't know where they're getting that other part there from. It's not written there anyway.
For me, it makes sense. Hey, Colbo, why worship a Lustrian snake deity when you can worship a real snake deity? Perfection is real, and her name is Nikala! Coming soon to an Albion village near you that won't be around for much longer. This message was sponsored by the Tormentors after they sucked the place dry.
I will say, I do love the idea of it. Actually, this could work really well for a very funny but also terrifying Slaanesh champion of them sending out adverts of the places they're coming to before they get there. That would be genuinely terrifying.
So, Colbo, this is obviously ridiculous, but is also obviously something that could and should happen.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't put that past Akala, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither. Something like that.
Because it's like she's so well known in certain annals of the Empire's history, she had to have been advertising herself.
Calendar, is there a link between the Amazons and Albion? Rig is the queen in Gaelic. Calith was said to have disappeared in the north. A handmaiden of Raya is called Rigga, and Albionese have a lot of red hair. So the answer to this is not if you read the books. However, the answer is obviously, why has no one written this? In fact, if you go check the Jade Wizard career that I popped up in Lorehammer side, I directly, where did I put it? I directly referenced this because the explorer that you find in the Amazon articles in White Dwarf writes an entire book about it. So I referenced that explorer, and that explorer went, I have encountered these names, they are the same as these names. Holy shit! That means this.
Yeah, I would say this actually works really, really well for how some of the Lizardman stories have approached the Amazons, where it's implied that there's some sort of relationship between the original Norse that came down and founded Skeggi, and how all of the Valkyries, the warrior women, when the Norse were settling down, they went, no, fuck you, and they kept going. And some believe that they would become the Amazons, which we know that's not technically true. The Amazons are already there, but they seem to have joined the Amazons. So the idea that there's these connections between ancient Albion, ancient Amazon, well, it works really well the more you look at it, in that they are both places heavily favored by the Old Ones, and they're both a unique, almost human group, separate from the rest of the humans, favored by the Old Ones. Yeah, there's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, the answer to this is almost certainly yes. I just need someone to write it. Jeremiah Safford, who won Shadows over Albion, and what was the year?
So the IRL year was 2000 and...
I mean, it completely finishes at 20, as I recall. 21? 25, 21?
No. The IRL year. So our world.
Oh, our world. That's 2001.
Okay, 2001. And then, yes, in 25, 21 is when
it's completely finished by then. It's finishing in like 19, 20, 21, as I recall.
And then there's like a final note in 25, 22 about like the Lizardmen kicking everybody out. If I recall, the actual campaign itself, I believe the dwarfs came out in the best position.
I mean, in terms of the tree at the end, I think
yeah,
the dwarves at the top.
They released a White Dwarf article that had like a breakdown of all the different wins and stuff, and it was cute. Like,
yeah,
it's
that's
not...
about, if you want to go look it up, it's around about the 260 mark, 261, 262, somewhere around there.
I've got it at the house.
But... Yeah, totally. So you want to go check it out yourself. It's around about 261, 262, 263, because that's after I left Games Workshop for the second time.
Yeah, because the big thing about that article is it released all the new magic items, which we talked a lot about on the last Lorebeards.
Artifacts of the old ones.
Yeah, which were very, very silly.
They were. Psych! All the numbers.
Oh, he's talking about the Night of the Blazing Sun book.
Oh, right. It's an island that had a demon of Tzeentch trapped into it and would move until druids from Norska and elsewhere rooted it in place in the Sea of Claws a bit after the Marienburg Sea. The name of the island is called Svunum?
That's not, yeah, that's...
that's interesting. Svunum. I don't recall that.
Well, look that up.
I have not read that book for clearly a very long time. Thanks for reminding me of it. I reckon that's probably come back in all of my books that I've got back. So I'll check that one up. Veldafi, or Veldafan, Veldafi. Who would win in a fight between a crab and a wyvern of equal size? What do you think?
See, my only confusion here is, are we making the crab wyvern size, or are we making the wyvern crab size?
If so, that wyvern's fucked.
Yeah. I would say, generally speaking, regardless of which way you go, the crab has a huge advantage.
Yeah, have you ever played the Man of War game back in the day? The big giant crab.
Well, even in Total War, in Total War we had Prometheans, and the Prometheans they're rotting Leviathans.
That's from Man of War.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, they gave them the rotting Leviathan title for Total War because they pulled that from the army book. But when they're alive, they're called Prometheans, and they are they'll body a wyvern.
Yeah,
that is not a fight a wyvern wants to be in.
Yep, agreed. Hammond, why worship Sotek, T'Challa, and Shai Hulud, fake snakes, when you could worship the real snake? Taylor Swift. She's not the snake, everyone else is a snake. I know, I've listened to her songs. Look, I've got Taylor Swift top on right now. Ha! Piffle. Mr. Grumbler, Andy, you know Malazan, I do. What do you think about a dwarf precursor inspired Tilanamas, the ultimate grudge bearer Oathkeepers? Yes. Is the answer to that one, Mr. Grumbler? That would be an ultimate example of that, and that grudge would be kept for a very long time. Dino Man, do you think if it would be cool or insensitive to have a food merchant from Ind having great success in Albion, also for Sotek's benefit while he's here, from mild to spicy generally? It's Korma, Masala, Rogan Josh, Karahi, I've never had that one in my life, to eat, Madras, Vindaloo, Jalfreezy varies massively, absolutely does.
You know, we had a, so I don't think it would be that bad as long as it was like a cute little reference and not like a major aspect of the island. I think you could slip that in without any issue whatsoever.
Yeah, you have to be careful not to lapse into bad stereotypes.
Yeah, as long as the merchant wasn't a huge stereotype.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want Apu running around. What I will say is somewhat related is that, very funnily, I'm an absolute bitch when it comes to spice, but I'm aware of that. And man, y'all, I wish we had caught it on camera. I brought some spice stuff with me from Texas. I brought some jerky from Buc-ee's. And Ed, who plays Gerhardt, did not have a good time.
Oh, it was so funny.
And it was so funny because everyone else was eating the ghost pepper like, I mean, it's hot, but
Lindsay and I had, so Ed, who's our player in Lawhammer, got the ghost pepper jerky, and he was like, I love that. And then...
he was suffering. He was suffering so bad.
And Lindsay and I looked at each other going, is it going to be that bad? And I had a bit. And I was like, it's all right. And she had a bit. And she was like, yeah, that's hot, but it's all right. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out Ed and Gerhardt are very similar people.
Ryan Woodall, a momentous day. It is indeed. Two legends are finally united. Surely this is the work of Morai Heg and not Lilith. Let's just keep Lilith out of all of this.
Yeah, really.
Praise be. Love you guys. Good to see you both together. Thanks very much as well for the super chat, Ryan. Enormously appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. So, I think...
You want to go?
Yeah, I think from here... so we talked a little bit about how Albion has gone through some weird changes, where in 6th edition, Albion was huge. Because 6th edition in many ways was kind of the best edition if you cared about a moving narrative, because a lot happened.
Yeah.
Where it literally goes traditional setup, Albion, so Shadows over Albion happens, then the Storm of Chaos happens, and then the Nemesis Crown happens. So there's a whole arc of campaigns.
And for those of you keeping your dates out there, it takes you far past the end times.
Yeah, because Albion is in 25-21, which by that point in 8th edition, the end times is like heavy. Like we're heavy in the end times.
And then we dive into Storm of Chaos, and then afterwards, as we move into Nemesis Crown, we're way past the end of the world, as we'll have it in the end times material. Like, way past. Karl Franz is an old man at this point. Because we actually have proper campaign development happening through the course of this edition of the game.
Yeah, so, obviously in 7th and 8th edition, they got a little weird. Which was super interesting, because 8th edition then came out with that Storm of Magic book. And in many ways, the Storm of Magic book was kind of like, hey, you know all those minis that we've released over the years where here's updated rules and here's updated lore? So they brought the Zotes back. They brought back Chaos Dwarf stuff. They brought back a ton of shit. And one of the big ones was they brought back the Fen Beast, which we'll talk about a little later, and the Truesayer and the Dark Emissaries. And instead of just bringing them back and being like, you can use your own models, they added lore, where they're like, yep, these guys are out there, they're wandering around the world, and they implied that the Albion crisis had happened,
Yeah.
but it was kind of shrouded in weirdness.
Yeah. The entire Albion campaign is unlike, say, the Storm of Chaos, which got retconned.
I got to pee again. Good lord.
Okay. And unlike the Nemesis Crown campaign, he's not strictly well.
I have to drink so much water.
Unlike the Nemesis Crown campaign, which was entirely retconned because it all happened after the end of the world, really. The Albion campaign continues to exist. It continues to be used, and it continues to pop up. But it does bring up the big question. So what happened? What is the Albion campaign? Why was Albion so important? Why do we care about Albion at all? What is this weird island that we are now having to deal with? And at the beginning of the Albion campaign, it takes a long time to detail what Albion is, where it came from, how it's there, and why it's important. And as it turns out, Albion was enormously important because Albion's history goes all the way back to one of Sotek's favorite points of discussion, and that's the old ones.
Oh, yeah.
And where they come from. So I'll pass over to Sotek, since he's now returned, to say, where did Albion come from? What's its original story?
Yep. So the big lore update they did, which was super exciting, was that basically when the old ones showed up, they had a couple of and the great thing about this, before I really get into it, is it makes the old ones a lot more multifaceted and helps support the idea that they were all a lot of them seem to be doing different things, rather than kind of the Lizardmen focus, which implies that the Lizardmen were like the special important children and everyone else was just, who were the custodians, but everyone else was kind of doing weird shit. So basically what it says is that some of the old ones came to Albion and were like, oh, this place is going to be super important. It was a great nexus point on the geomantic web. Super important nexus point. To the point that, like Andy said earlier, it likely had things built by pre-01 races who were harnessing that energy either consciously or not, because that was what little magic existed in the world before the old ones opened the gates and everything. So the old ones come to the island and they create the people of Albion, but not just them. They also create a race of giants.
Oh, they do more. There's one other important detail to say just before that. This is where they uplifted the dwarves and the elves and the humans.
Oh.
So, although the elves are over in Ulthuan and the dwarves are in the great spine of the world, this is where they did it. So this is if you want to say, birthplace. Where are the labs that they did the uplifting? The answer is in Albion. Where are the potentially ancient artifacts that were used to move one species into a new species, to uplift the elves from, if you go with one example of it, to take the elves that were spirits and turn them into the physical material elves, to take the dwarves that were directly tied to the land in some interesting ways and uplift them into the dwarves we know today, to take the humans that were this surface-dwelling, weirdly adaptable species and turn them into the humans of the day. It happened here. You want to know where the old ones did their shit? It was on Albion. And it became a point of extraordinary importance. All the stuff that happened in Albion was big.
Yeah,
big.
This is the only place definitively outside of the jungles, so like Koresh, Lustria, and the Southlands, where the old ones built huge structures. The Forge of the Old Ones, titanic. Mostly underground, but huge. The Citadel of Lead, fucking huge. And also, interestingly, literally made out of lead. It's super magically it just repels. There are things within the Citadel of Lead that are not to be tampered with lightly. This is one of those places where if you would not want to bring Merry and Pippin because one of them's gonna fucking activate some nuke or some bullshit. Crash, the drums in the deep. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this was the greatest. This is where the old ones were the most active.
Yeah, it's fascinating because this is the place where if you want to tell a story about the old ones, this is where you begin. Now, the story likely ends with Lizardmen if you're telling this story, and strangely enough, that's exactly what we were intending to do with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th edition. Just to give a little bit of an update as to what we were once doing with that, so you all know. At the end of the Enemy Within campaign, we're intending to create a new campaign. It was it was advertised. We discussed it down at Warhammer Fest. We had Gav Thorpe and myself down as the writers, and the plan for that campaign was it was called Pass of the Old Ones, go to Albion, see the shit that Albion has, then hike it over towards the elves, learn more about that from the elves, then hike it over to Lizardmen to conclude the campaign. And it was all about the Old Ones, because Albion is, in some respects, a home for the Old Ones in a way that the Lizardmen cities aren't. The Lizardmen cities are homes for the Slan and the Lizardmen, and many an Old One is involved with them. But if you're looking for a true home of the Old Ones, it's Albion. And it's also a place where we get a lovely little almost shocked aside about the Old Ones. Humans were never part of their original great plan, but when they saw just what humanity could do, they took them on board, and they become the core culture of what will lie at the very heart of Albion. But much like the Lizardmen, the human population of Albion, or the Lizardmen population of the various cities across the various jungles, without the Old Ones there, everything devolves over time, because it's thousands of years. What used to be an understood ritual becomes something that's repeated by rote.
Well, and it's further complicated by, at this time, Albion's a paradise. It's a beautiful land, sun-wreathed, ideal environment. It was made into a paradise for the Old Ones themselves, of course, and their servants. And they had the giants, what's really interesting is that we now know the lore's kind of shifted a little bit. The Sky Titans were not made by the Old Ones.
Yeah.
But this race of giants was. And they were like super intelligent. They were not like normal, what you would think of as normal giants. And even now, Albionese giants,
Albionese,
are notably different than old world giants.
Yeah.
Many of them are larger. They also have a high chance of having two heads.
or one eye.
Or one eye.
Yeah.
They tend to be very kind of unique. But anyway, so the giants are doing construction. The people of Albion are learning from the Old Ones about how to essentially maintain things.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time. So this is pre-Cataclysm. So this is before Chaos comes and everything gets fucked up. But what we have here is, to keep it simple, we don't have a great deal of detail, but that detail is pretty clear. We don't have Lizardmen. We don't have Slan. We don't have the great Old One servitor species that we know. Instead, we have humans and human-like creatures, like, for example, giants that are this big humans. In many respects, the Lizardman model that they are building elsewhere is, in a smaller degree, repeated here. You've got smaller servitor humans, bigger humans that are effectively doing the building. They're the giants. Giants are just like humans, basically. We've got different types of humans of different scales doing different jobs. And what they also, and perhaps surprisingly, were doing was magic. They were tapping into the geomantic web in a way that the elves weren't. The elves weren't using the geomantic web at all. They were magical creatures, but they were doing their own thing with their gods. That's not what's happening
they're doing
here in Albion.
etheric stuff.
Yeah, Albion's working far closer to the actual land. And you begin to understand why the concept of the mother, the old faith, the land itself, the earth mother, becomes a core component of what will become their central faith later. Their central faith later being called the old faith, as it was all the way back in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition, Druidism.
And what's interesting here is, of course, you have the aspect that the stuff that's going on here is kind of interesting. If you're looking for interesting stories, this is likely where whatever went down between Rig and the other Old Ones happened.
Yeah.
Where she gets outcast and ends up retreating down to the Amazon Isle, down near Lustria, which is really fucking far away.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to build this story, this is exactly that, where it happens. There is something big that occurs around this area, and there's clearly some form of, it's not necessarily a schism, we don't know how Old Ones work, but there is something where one group goes elsewhere, carrying with them much of the knowledge and awareness of the peoples of the old faith. And those names repeat.
Yeah, and she goes on to create a race of only women.
Yeah.
Which, once again, there's a story there.
There is a story there, particularly when you look at, say, for example, many of the sexist groups that you might find in the old world where they have said men can't be used for one reason or another because they are inherently, according to some of the various groups, corrupted.
So seeing the origin of that.
Where when magic comes, that because of testosterone, for example, they're far more likely to go more. Which is a good way to shake the cameras. And that, for example, has translated in Kislev to no, men can't become wizards. If they become wizards, they are more likely to corrupt to chaos. All the wizards must be female. Something similar happens over in Britonia, where the damsels are the wizards and the men are taken away and they become servants to...
I mean, even among the elves,
the lady.
Malekith hears the prophecy that a male wizard will be his doom and looks at that and goes, I believe that.
Yeah, there is something within the myths of the old world that suggests there's going to be a great male spellcaster that's going to ruin the world. Albion! So in many respects, you can almost see where this is coming from.
Yeah, well, I can almost imagine Rig seeing that, because we know how the old ones work, being like, I'm going to go do, like, we should only make women. And the other one's saying, no.
Yeah, we have to do something to stop this oncoming storm, this awfulness that's going to come. And that, loosely speaking, sort of makes sense.
You know what? I actually love the idea that if you're running with that Earth Mother story, or that she's the original of, like, Rye or what have you, that she had a more motherly relationship with her creations. It was like, we should save them. The old ones say, that's not the plan.
Yeah.
The plan is the world has to be destroyed.
Boom. And we have a schism.
That's the schism.
Yeah. And we've got enough here for us to at least suggest that there is either a schism amongst the old ones, or alternatively, they are making multiple plans. There's different ways of viewing it. And these different plans all end up with different results. But all of them are interrupted, or alternatively, it's kicked off. Because it's very possible an old one starts this, and boom, chaos comes. There is something that's worth noting here, though, because the 6th edition takes a slightly different route when it says that chaos eventually comes. And it says this, that the old ones flee. It's really interesting in the Albion book. They're very clear. They don't say that the old ones were killed. They don't say the old ones tried to stop it. They don't say the old ones don't understand. The old ones go, yeah, we have to close up and go to leave shop. Goodbye. And they leave everyone behind. They just go. Gone. Out of here. No longer there. Now, if you want to incorporate that story, you can easily do that by saying the old ones of Albion were completely prepared for this and they left, leaving the old ones elsewhere where the Lizardmen have different stories that land in different ways. But what we can say from this book is that the old ones come the Cataclysm of Albion just went, leaving the existing human populace and the giants to have to deal with the oncoming storm.
I actually really, really love that I really like adding that level of complexity into the old ones, because it adds so much more weight to the idea of, like, why was there an old one creating halflings and ogres at the last possible minute? Of, like, the Albion ones are watching their own timer, and some of the other old ones don't agree with them, and there being this issue, but they kick it off, and all the other ones go, oh shit, and they're trying to, like, finish everything they can
for their version of the great plan.
Or some of them choose to fight, or some of them die, or, you know, all sorts of crazy shit.
So what happens in Albion come the Cataclysm? It's fascinating. Just like the rest of the world, it all goes tits up, and it goes bad. Particularly because Albion is at the center of the geomantic web. An enormous flow of magic is here, and it is a prime piece of real estate for chaos to capture. They want this shit. But the truth speakers, as we know them later, the great druids, as they are known elsewhere, this group of humanity that can use magic and with the geomantic web in a way that no other species, pretty much that we're aware of, can, beyond possibly the Slan. This group went, yeah, they're not taking these islands, and they started building their defenses using the giants that they had. Now, if we run with the idea that on the oncoming point of the Cataclysm, that this is the place where species were uplifted, it's very possible that the halflings and the ogres are created near this point and possibly moved elsewhere in this area and then ported out. Possible. If you want to build stories around that, you absolutely can. Or you can say another old one was building that as a different plan elsewhere, and that almost certainly over near the mountains of Morn, relatively close.
I mean, the lost city of the old ones is not that far from the mountains of Morn.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Having that happen there makes a lot of sense, because the halflings migrate from that sort of area into the Empire and eventually arrive there at around about 1000 IC. It takes them thousands of years to do that migration. Indeed, there's probably a ton of halflings over in that part of the world in various secluded places, hiding away from the awfulness of the Darklands or whatever else might be out there. So we have ourselves a largely human populace that starts to build its defenses. It gets all the giants to start building great stone megalithic edifices around the biggest sources of power. Massive works, and they do this fast. As the elves are collapsing, their gods are dying.
Almost like they knew it was coming.
Almost like they knew it was coming. The elves are fucked at this point. The chaos gods have arrived, and remember, at this point, there's not just 4 as we often think of it. There are potentially lots of gods that are chaos gods. We end up with 4 after the cataclysm. And even then, we end up with far more, as we know if we look into the lore. There's loads of chaos gods that pop up because lots of individual mortals are elevated, spirits come in, there's weird entities from far off that come in, Morgurs, naughtiness. There's all sorts of crazy shit going on. But Albion goes into defense mode, and it builds enormous Ogham circles all over the place to control that power. And that power from the geomantic web, using rituals that they knew somehow already in place, using great rituals, that magical power is siphoned, controlled, and raises up the mists around Albion, which causes any to come close to get lost. Now, you might recognize this from, say, the great mists that rise around Ulthuan over on the eastern coast of Ulthuan.
Yep, very similar rituals.
The shifting sands and the great mist, and interestingly, the shifting sands as well. The idea of islands that move.
Yeah, the shifting isles, yeah.
Yeah, so they're shifting from place to place over in that part, and the mists are going. Albion has the original of this. The elves, you could argue, were inspired by this and watching it.
Way better.
And Albion's version is better, which allows us to then again say there is nothing wrong with the maps being changed, being different, because very possibly Albion itself, much like Ulthuan, isn't rooted physically in place in the same way that other places are. This is another cradle of the old ones. And we know the cradle of the old ones are just different to elsewhere. This entire land is in place because of the nexus points that it lies upon in terms of the old world geomantic web. And that magic gets siphoned into the great mists that go round. But it has a bit of a side effect. This great paradise, this beautiful place, is now shrouded with thick magical mists and barely sees sunshine.
So there's one little part before that part.
Yeah, which part?
Which is that initially their defenses against the demons actually work really, really well. The mist doesn't get fucked up, and it actually becomes described as chaos mist when they decide to help the elves with the vortex. That when they see what the elves are doing, and they go, okay. And now what's interesting is the book very cheekily, because 6th edition did this a lot, was like the Albionites looked at the elves and were like, oh, that's cute. We're going to make a way better version. And it says that they basically locked the demons to the north. They created a great warding around the world that locks the demons up so that the vortex isn't attacked by as many demons as it could have been, which is very similar to what the Slann kind of did.
Yeah, and you can almost see that there is layers of defense now. The Slann are working with the Truthsayers, are working with the elves, and
where the Slann are handling the south, the Albionites or Albionese, I'm just going to change it every time, are helping the north.
Yeah, totally. And Albion changes. The cataclysm comes to an end. And Albion becomes, instead of this beautiful paradise, it gets lost. Lost to the rest of the world because of the mists that lie around it. Lost to itself because the entire land becomes drenched. The mists never raise, never part. The sun is barely ever seen. It's constantly raining down from the immense amount of liquid that's in the air. And the entirety of this place becomes a bog-ridden hellhole. It is, in comparison to what it was, pure awfulness. It is now, in many respects, a cursed land by magic, but it has to be. Because what lies in Albion? The great Old One machines, their great artifacts, their great works and edifices are so important that they cannot allow for the potential of chaos to ever take it. And as we know, the world, slowly but surely, gets attacked again and again and again by chaos attempting to bring it all down. And they appear to be in a position to not only have something that's incredibly powerful that they can't allow chaos to gain access to, but also be in a position to trap the worst that chaos has to offer. Because at a far later date, as we will get to, a certain individual gets trapped in this place. Possibly was always trapped in this place, because that's the nature of time and demons anyway. You never can be certain whether it was there all the way through and it was also out doing things, but we're not there yet. But what we have is an Albion that falls into a horror show of what it once was. And after the conflict, there's two things that are certain. The primary population is human. The secondary population is giant, and their numbers are exceedingly small. Where beforehand there was a lot of them, we're now down to less than a viable genetic pool. Now, if you don't know what viable genetic pool is, this is the minimum number to ensure that you don't get heavy genetic manipulation, mutation and inbreeding. And that's, generally speaking, at least 300, which means at this point, there's almost certainly fewer than 300 giants, and arguably maybe not more than about 100 left that survived the cataclysm. And this is going to have an extraordinarily bad effect on the remaining giants, because they are going to move from being an intelligent, fully capable species into an inbred, kind of broken species that wanders around Albion in the marshes, largely lost, with some of them with some modicum of intelligence left, but most of them left to being rather boastful creatures who are lost to
Yeah, and actually, one of the
alcohol.
interesting notes is it notes that because chaos can't find the island, they become bored because there's nothing to fight.
Yeah, and they're bored creatures with little to do, and mutation almost certainly becomes more common, which is probably why our two heads, our one eyes, have become a core component of what many see as the Albionese giant. But what we can say probably for certain is that they are probably a different species to the Sky Titans.
Yes. And they're not chaos giants. They're stable mutations.
Absolutely. And so it's not chaos that's causing this per se. It's the fact they're inbred. They're properly inbred creatures. And there might be quite a lot of them nowadays, but they're still not the most populous.
Yeah, the other big things are that the mist, because they're so magically dense, unfortunately that rain, it not only floods the land, but it corrupts it. It taints it. Not with like true Azavar cool to Prague corruption, just too much magic. Which when magic saturates, it's dangerous.
And do you want to know what that means? That means that when Morrslieb spits, when there are great shards of warpstone falling down into the Warhammer world, they kind of get drawn, because it's basically pure magic to this area. Morrslieb spits more into Albion than any other part of the Warhammer world.
Unfortunately for the people and everyone else living there.
Which ain't great! That's just not good. It's a bad place to have to go, because there is a lot of warpstone, a lot of magic out of control, which the warpstone only makes worse, giant mists, which are generally very difficult to get through, a race of humans that are holding on to secrets of the old ones. They believe in the Great Plan. They're much like the Lizardmen, believing they're working towards the Great Plan, and that they have something important to do. But countless generations have meant that that plan has been corroded, much like it has with the Lizardmen. Yeah. They don't really understand what they're doing anymore. Their rituals over the great henges.
They're very much like the skinks.
Yeah, they very much are repetitions rather than understanding. They don't have the actual knowledge of what they're doing anymore. What was once a decision made of intelligence has become one of our ancestors did it, we do the same. The old faith of Mother Earth is very much their core religion. But on top of that is just thousands of years worth of repeated leaders, repeated magicians, because the druids are spellcasters and good ones at that. All of which have had their own interpretations that have been passed down over time, meaning that what we're left with is both a far truer version of the original druidism, but also an entire bastardization of what it is, meaning that what you get over in the old world, say for example the great families of druids that have migrated through the old world, almost certainly came from Albion originally, carry both more of the original tales and less. because they've got some of the ones that are lost to Albion that have been corrupted by time, and they've managed to preserve, but they have, in general, got far more over in Albion. If you're looking for the source of the Druids, it's Albion. But it doesn't necessarily mean that their tales are better than the Druids that you might find over in the Old World.
Yeah, the people of Albion, like the Belthani, definitely have a common ancestor, so to speak, but neither of them is more right than the other.
Yeah, so when the tribes of Sigmar arrive in the Reich Basin, so that's basically where the Empire is today, they often speak to the Belthani peoples, which are the original peoples of the Empire, according to some stories. They are from Albion.
Yeah,
that is where they come from. They have migrated over, and they are Albionese. The Albions people have found ways to get out from there, and the faith that they have, they're generally speaking matriarchal society, revering the Old Mother over others, is founded upon what occurred over in Albion and whatever the great plan that was handed down to them required of them.
Yep, and unfortunately, they got absolutely ripped to pieces.
Yeah, they did. Empire.
Write an autobiography. Listen, if someone wants to write about us, they can feel free to
Go for it,
reach
man.
out to us. I'm not doing it.
I only have so much time. In our Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Chaos campaign, we had a base in Albion, so we could attempt to raid on Ulthuan, but we lost it to the Giants, who crushed it to dust. Hey, Ricky, not surprising. Let's be honest. The Giants are going to do exactly that.
Yeah, especially the Albanese Giants, boredom is a core component of them, because they're really known for, one of the things that makes it hard to get to Albion is that they set up on the mountaintops and they just throw things at things they see in the ocean.
And in fact, I'll go slightly further on that. The good old White Cliffs of Dover. So if you know anything about the UK, the White Cliffs of Dover are relatively famous because if you're going from mainland Europe over to the UK, typically the first thing you see is the Great White Cliffs of Dover. So these are giant white cliffs with in this case, giants on the top of them, because the Warhammer World equivalent are take the White Cliffs of Dover, make them bigger, and then spread them around the entire frickin' island, because most of the island is inaccessible. Almost none of it can be landed. It's exceedingly difficult to get into Albion, even if you get through the mists. And even if you should reach a point at the top of these enormous cliffs, there are giants with big rocks hurrying their way to throwing them down, laughing as they get the tiny folk down below, which they think is kind of hilarious, because it's something to frickin' do.
Yep.
Hey, Survivor, is Macbeth of Albion still referenced anywhere in the current lore, or has been relegated to the mist of the past editions? Yes, relegated, gone, does not exist, it is not a thing. But that doesn't mean that no writer will at any point not reference it. Primarily because there are definitely different clans of Celtic-leaning people that exist in Albion, and it would be super easy to reference some of that old material without in any way impacting the later material that was added.
Yeah, it would probably, I would love to see someone take what Albion has become and do a reapproach and see how the story changes.
I don't think it would be a particularly difficult thing to do either.
No.
It would just, in terms of their technological level, dial it back by about a few hundred years, which is not really saying that much because it's just removing some of their equipment, but not much more.
Oh, thank you, Marco. That's very generous.
Oh, Marco, thank you. No questions, just thanks for the amazing content. Also, getting sick when traveling is such a blessing.
First time it's happened to me, man. It sucks.
Well, it's got to happen sometimes.
Yeah, it's got to get you eventually.
Of course, it happens when he comes here. The Calendar, thank you very much again. So generous. When a wizard makes a familiar, they imbue it with a lore. Could a slan imbue a human familiar with the lore of high magic?
Human familiar.
Wow, that is so certainly. So the way that familiars are made, the answer to this is probably no. But I will say probably, because there's most certainly various forms of links that can be created between spirits, which effectively turn someone else into what would amount to be a familiar.
What I will say is if you want to play around with this, I can't remember what his name is, but there's a Slan down in Slaklan, I believe, the City of the Moon, who has gotten into a bad habit of experimenting on humans and lobotomizing them. He's got like a whole legion of moon-mad human slaves, but which is older stuff that he occasionally gets referenced to. This could work really well for that, where he's trying to make a human familiar and he keeps failing. but, you know, maybe if you're in the area, you could help him figure out what part he keeps fucking up.
Yeah, so I would sum this up as the official answer is no, but the specific answer, as in creating a cool story around the idea, is go wild.
I will say that human would be terrifying. That would be a weird creature.
That would be a thing, yeah.
Like, I am an entity that has the balanced, perfected winds of magic in me. What the fuck? Okay.
Hey, Dynaman. So, creation of some of the Warhammer races was literally in the UK, just like real life. Yeah, in many respects, as the source of Games Workshop that made all the stuff, they basically made the Citadel of Lead, where they made all the miniatures, be the source.
The most important place in the world.
Where they made all of the Warhammer world. So, the answer to this is yes. Absolutely yes. The source of the Warhammer world, as we understand it today, is Albion, because the source of the Warhammer world in the real world is Albion. And in many respects, they just copied that over, and it is the case. And they've written nice, clean lore to explain why that's the case. Hey, Hammond, do you think they use modified spawning pools to uplift?
I don't think so, because the purpose of spawning pools is to not require... It essentially makes copies. And it's like a program producing machines as opposed to trying to create viable breeding races.
I agree. Without spawning pools, the lizardmen are fucked.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Yeah, they just cease to be.
Yeah. The lizardmen are ultimately a potentially closed off species. I mean, they, as we learned with Age of Sigmar, they're not, and they somehow survive all.
Yeah, they're surprisingly durable, considering
very durable,
very vulnerable
weakness, but exceedingly vulnerable. Where those that can biologically continue on do not suffer that particular fate. But if you wipe them out, they're gone forever. If you wipe out lizardmen out completely, put on the spawning machine, more come out. They've got different strengths and weaknesses. So in this particular case, I think the answer is no. Hey, so the Sage Mitre asks, so if the Albion Giants are human Croxagores, what redesign will CA give them for Sotek's Endless Joy? Maybe ant-heads.
I mean, they're much bigger than Croxagores. No, they'd have to do something stupid where they misinterpret the term giant. Oh, but use ant heads. Yeah, so no, that is what they would do. Oh, it's giant ant. It's giant ant, right?
Yeah, you just noticed, haven't
Just
you?
like Croxagore. Yeah. Fucking idiots. I hate that so much.
I can't say I'm a fan, but it does make me laugh at your annoyance of it.
God.
Tyrant25, is Scotland the Texas of the UK? No. Wait a minute. A formerly independent country that voluntarily joined a political union has never stopped regretting it. Okay.
Okay, to be fair, in Texas, when you grow up and you learn about like Texas history, they trick you into thinking that joining the U.S. was like some horrible thing, according to some opinions. And then when you become an adult and you pay attention, you go, well, no, we got a way better fucking deal. Like, if you look at the actual history, Texas was begging. Whereas you learn Scottish history and it's rather unfortunate how Scotland joined the UK.
Yeah, I mean, Scotland had its own financial issues, particularly after a couple of failed colonisation attempts, because colonisation was a thing. But in some respects, I could see that.
Yeah,
See, we're distant brothers in arms.
When I was getting a tour of the Highlands, I'll never forget the tour guide was going over the specifics of the king that did it, and he's like, he wasn't fucking our king. It was any.
There are still a lot of interesting grievances held by individuals from events that happened some 300 years ago.
To say that my tour guide was pro-independence is a grotesque understatement.
Strigoy Boy asks, when you two do your Dragon Ball Z fusion dance? Do you become Antek or Sondi?
We can't, because currently we're keeping the illness only in one body. If we combine,
or are we?
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be over so quick.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Dynaman, do you think Mazdamundi wants all the humans in Albion to the mainland old world, or would this be another potential origin point like Cathay? So, I think if we were going with the lore that's presented in 6e, then Mazdamundi would want...
we actually know the answer to this.
Okay, cool.
So in the 6th edition Lizardman book, Mazdamundi tells Kroq-Gar the island must be purged of warm bloods. All of them.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. But Mazdamundi also doesn't go there in person.
That is interesting, because that goes against what it says inside the Albion book. So I think there's a story there.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, it could just be Mazdamundi doesn't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Because that's the problem with sending Krokars. Krokar's just going to follow orders. He's not going to look around and be like, oh.
Yeah, so and in this case, I think I agree, actually, that Mazdamundi is, in fact, ignorant.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just doesn't understand. And possibly if you could get hold of some of the plaques that the truth-sayers have got, the truth speakers, then he might change his mind.
Such a cool like side story in a Wolfert campaign, or even a main
really
story of like, we have to get this plaque to Mazdamundi to stop him.
Yeah, totally. Mazdamundi is basically bringing about the end of the world without even realizing he's doing it because he's following that plan of the old ones. Love it. Hey, Bernard Damerville, do we know much about the culture and values of the peoples of Albion? Any influences from other races, particulars of religion? Yeah, so all the gods of the old world are broadly known. So there has been quite a lot of cross-pollination of ideas. We're aware that there are several gods that are like Ulrich et al. That are known, and that Tal is seen as the king of those gods over in Albion. There are different versions of the lore that present different versions of Albion, but broadly speaking, Tal is seen as the king of the gods over there. So they've had cross-pollination not just from the southern old world, but from Norska. They've been invaded multiple times from different directions. Good old Curious Geezer, who I absolutely did not mention in my intro because fuck that guy and his stupid name. We discussed it beforehand.
His story is
but I didn't do it.
Stupid.
Okay, but Curious Geezer, of Remus, he's been up there and he took forces with him as well. There have been multiple invasions, all of whom have brought culture, values, and ideas, all of which have been absorbed and, to a greater degree, forgotten. The core of what the remaining Albionese is relatively bluntly Iron Age Britain, Celtic peoples, tattoos, simple weapons, lots of warring groups. They don't get on with each other. Warring clans.
A lot of tribal conflict.
There's a lot of inter-tribe conflict. The truth speakers over them are constantly mediating with each other and them and others. Giants are sometimes pulled in. In many respects, it's almost like a micro version of the overall Warhammer world, in that they are constantly at low-key, sometimes very high-key war.
Which totally doesn't leave them vulnerable to something we're about to get to.
Indeed. And on top of that as well, we have greenskins. There are greenskins there, and the greenskins have, if we go by the 6th edition version, bread.
What?
Yeah, it says in the it says they were bred inside the 6th edition Albion book. Gotta love it. Bred, that very much later becomes more, grown. But whether we're going with they breed or they come from mushrooms, regardless of what version you go with.
Let's not go to Albion. Tis a silly place.
It is a silly place, exactly. We have orcs and greenskins of various types there. So there's various tribes of them there who are also warring, but they don't appear to have reached the same level of success that they've got over in the old world as a whole. In that we don't have the mountains full of greenskins raiding down. Quite the opposite. The mountains are often the holding points for great old one artifacts. They are held by truth speakers, and they are properly held. The greenskins are kept out. The greenskins are noted as being in the valleys in between. They never quite reach. They're in the shadows of the mountains, not in the mountains themselves. So we've got an island that is full of different peoples, many of whom conflict, many of whom have got different views as to what they should be
also
done.
super interesting about that is that the Giants of Albion are not sympathetic to the greenskins like they are in the old world.
100% aren't. And we've got tales of Lost Ericsson. He popped in here, Norskin chap who goes literally everywhere, because of course he came here too. Lost Ericsson, there's been various attempts to colonize the place from various places, but it's such a dreary, magic-soaked, fucked up place.
Yeah, Albion sucks.
Down in the south, there's undead all over the place, down the Isle of Wight and elsewhere. Vampires have definitely arrived here in more than one case, so there's a few of those kicking about. Loosely speaking, there's tons of external influence on the place, and Albion folk have come out multiple times as well. But broadly speaking, the core culture has kind of stuck. Hey, Cars of 15, you said Khorne could be dead in a previous stream. Could Be'lakor have killed him when the gods captured him, but he exists because of timey-wimey stuff? I mean, sure.
Sure.
I mean, there's various ways that could be handled. Dead is an interesting word when it comes to demons, or gods, or indeed anything else. But he definitely could have been, for example, beheaded. There's a whole host of fun, exciting stories you could take.
You could argue, why is it Tzeentch, only Tzeentch, that seems to curse him, not the other three? Maybe if you run with a story, you could say Be'lakor killed the other three and Tzeentch was the last one standing. There's
lots of stories that you could certainly run with, but that's one.
Yep.
Sure. Peshemic here. Hey, Peshemic.
I was really hoping he'd change it subtly every time just to fuck with you.
You got it right. Is there lore on Dwarfhold south of Carrick Zorn? Ideas for multi-faction... in fact, we can see from the shaked head already that no, there is not. Campaign exposition to Carrick Zorn.
No, so the dwarves only went north. They didn't go south.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also worth noting that most Albion lore says that there's no dwarves in Albion.
Which is bullshit.
Which we know isn't true. We know that there are various dwarves that have come from Albion, so it suggests to me that unlike, say, the Carrick dwarves are equivalent, there has been landings of Norse dwarves at various points. There's been landings probably of Norse, because if we take a look at how many dwarves went to sea,
especially with how naval focused their lore has become.
Yeah, absolutely. If we take a look at the Carrick dwarves and their naval fleets, they are relatively new. Their steam engines are new. The big ironclads that move out are new. But the Norse dwarves of the north,
they're like big boats.
They've been going for a long time. So it seems very likely that we have had landings of them up there, and we've got various communities which have eventually resulted in people like Malachi Geisen.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Marathi, the Albion Landerianities folk is the official term. Okay,
One
the
try,
Albion
that was impressive.
Yeah, I got there. I'm surprised I did. So, yep, you're absolutely correct. That's what they're all called from now on. Hey, Dynaman, is there so much work done in Albion where the Skaven involved in the Albion campaign, or do they have tunnels there?
So the Albion campaign, one of the things that made it so great is everyone was involved. Canonically, everybody got involved.
Yes, and also canonically, the Skaven tunnels do go to Albion, but interestingly, as I recall, they come from Kislev. I think it's Kislev.
Yeah, if I remember right, they still have difficult... Like, the mist still fucks with them.
It fucks with them, and they've come from Kislev, of all places. So that's the tunnel they've managed to get in, and I think it's fair to say that these tunnels might collapse, because if we are correct and we use the shifting islands as a model, then very probably their old tunnels have on more than one occasion been flooded. Yeah. And they've had to come in through a different route.
I would agree, because the Skaven, for everything we've talked about, you would expect them to have a strong presence, and they don't. The Skaven really struggle in Albion.
100% agreed. And there is nothing there that would suggest the Skaven should be having problems, because this is a land of, well, boggy and wetness. They're not the best place to go underground, but they've still got mountains.
It's a rainy version of Skaven Blight in a lot of ways.
But they've still got mountains, and a lot of the old one technology goes deep underground. This is Skaven territory, yet is still somehow Skaven free. So the answer is probably their old tunnels have just been constantly disconnected, and the tunnels that they get in place for the Albion campaign from, as I recall, it's Kislev, are again a relatively new thing, allowing them to swarm into the island in one next attempt. Hey, Colbo, I just remembered that in Giant Slayer there were lots of orcs and goblins in Albion. Yes, possible descendant of Grum's ill-fated naval fleet. No, they came.
They've been there a long time.
Yeah, they've been there for a long time now. Is it likely that some orcs and goblins sheared off of that naval fleet as it sailed out?
That would also not be unlikely.
Yeah, I think that would also be very likely.
Especially because his fleet got, like, obliterated by a storm.
But orcs and goblins have been on Albion, at least as it currently stands, for several thousand years. They've been around pretty much as long as orcs and goblins have been around. They've invaded on more than one occasion. Hey, Nels, nice to see you meet up. Indeed, it's nice to be here, and thank you very much for the super chat. Are the gnomes present in Albion? If so, how? Cheers. Yes. So the gnomes were made in Albion, just like everybody else. So this is their foundation point. If we were going to be sighting them anywhere, it'd be down in the southwest of Albion, right down at that tip, because most of the... well, almost all, in fact, of the gnome material references Cornish style names with a hint of Welsh in there as well. Cornish and Welsh, almost Breton style setup. So that being the case, the answer is yes. Now, not only that, if we go back to the old lore on gnomes, Albion was often, again, depicted as where they came from. So the answer is yes, yes, yes to this, regardless of which edition you go with.
Especially with how, like, Olgu, it's like one of the Olgu hotspots in the universe.
100%. So this is almost most certainly where they originally came from. So we probably have somewhere some great burrow of gnomes, probably down in the south and the west.
All right, looking at the time, we should probably get on the next topic. And then we'll
Holy
catch
crap,
up with
look at that. We're already at 6:30.
Yeah.
And your voice isn't even placed. We're going to have to deal with what, the campaign itself?
Yes.
Do you think that's the next obvious place? We've covered the invasions.
Yeah, we'll hot skip through a good bit.
Yeah.
So the Albion crisis basically revolves around, so different books have covered in different ways, in fun ways, of how exactly Be'lakor becomes aware of Albion. Some books have, I'm trying to remember what specific book it was that I'm thinking of. I think it's in the Archaon books, when Archaon's kicking around doing all his shit. And he's looking for the 6 artifacts of the Everchosen. He gets in a fight with Be'lakor. And Archaon and Be'lakor fight each other because Archaon goes to Be'lakor's citadel, which is a very silly place because it's a big rock in the shape of Be'lakor. It's very silly.
Oh, dear.
But Archaon goes up there, they have a big fight, and Archaon kills him, or banishes him.
Again.
And when that happens, and once again, I feel great. I just sound terrible, but I feel awesome, really. When he goes up there, when Be'lakor is in the midst of being kind of thrown off, something in Albion happens. Like something in Albion goes, and it catches his attention. And Be'lakor manages to latch a piece of himself onto something in Albion. And this is where the druids, doing the best they can, fuck up. Because they imprison him somewhere they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And the problem with having Be'lakor as a prisoner, especially when you live there, because they put him up in the Citadel of Lead, which once again is a perfect, in a sense, tomb for an etheric entity. The problem is he can whisper to them.
And he does. So let's cut this long story down short because we're already bloody at 6:30. Okay, so let's cut this whole long story. We already spoke about the Truth Speakers. Think of these as the druidic leaders of the various tribes. They are, however, in a state of schism. They all have slightly different versions of what they think they should be doing. They're also pretty fucking powerful as a group. And not just because they have a lot of control, but because they're magically really damned good. Be'lakor starts whispering, and we start getting a bunch of conversions. And we end up with, on one side, the truth speakers going, no, we're speaking the truth, honest. And on the other side, the not so much truth speakers, the emissaries to the dark people, the dark emissaries, perhaps.
Dark Master.
I mean, really, could you have gone with a slightly more
I feel
politically sensitive name?
I was gonna say,
you could
I
have
feel
just
like-
gone for the emissaries, the emissaries of goodness.
I feel like if Be'lakor cared more about, like, political viewing, he would be far more successful.
Yeah, he probably would. But no, these are the dark emissaries. And these dark emissaries that are basically druids that have converted to Be'lakor start attempting to do stuff for Be'lakor on the other side. And we eventually unfold into the Albion crisis, which is these two groups tearing each other apart in an attempt to control Albion. And because neither are getting as successful as they like, they reach outwards. And they call upon the various other groups in the Warhammer world in a way that only a summer campaign can possibly
Yeah, the Dark
resolve.
Emissaries showing up outside of, like, orc tribes and Skaven holds and being like, hey, come work for us.
And it's a bit daft. If I'm being...
It's literally
goofy.
like, it's like the intro to Total Warhammer 1. It's very
100% that. In that they basically create a whole bunch of the advisors.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of dodgy Johans showing up.
Indeed. So the advisor from Total War, except wearing druid stuff, pops up. Or alternatively, I'm an evil one with a big
They
mask
got,
on.
like, the big things in their evil eyes and they've got spikes. It's like, all right, at least try to be subtle. Jesus.
But no. So we've got ourselves two groups of druids who go out into the world to try and take control of Albion and free Be'lakor, let Be'lakor be stuck there, use the artifacts of the old ones, not use the artifacts of the old ones, use the great engines of power that are there or not, and let's have ourselves a great big party, which is one way of saying everybody goes to war in Albion.
Yep. And it was a great campaign. Genuinely.
It was cool.
Had a cool website that they have funny notes about. Magic works really weird in Albion because it's like it changes so violently, just like the weather does, that it makes it very hard for wizards to do anything reliably because they might, like Andy said, they might try a small spell and it turns huge on accident, or they might try a big spell and it just does fuck all because the magic is so temperamental. But also GW literally had like a ranking of all the spell lores,
Yeah.
and every day they change. of which ones were in ascendance, which ones weren't. And you had to like go to the website for the summer campaign for like details, which was very cool.
Yeah, it was super fun. And I remember talking to Gav Thorpe about this because he was running all these pieces when we were discussing about Past of the Old Ones. And one of the reasons why he was so keen to do Past of the Old Ones was because it took all of the work that he'd done on the elves, on the summer campaigns, everything else, combined it all into one and created a conclusion. Because this big summer campaign had its own conclusion, as in, did Be'lakor win or lose? We all know the answer. We all know the answer. No, we're fine. Did Be'lakor become a god? No, he did not. So we all know how this unfolds. We end up, though, with one gigantic fight with various emissaries from both factions arriving with all of the core factions of the Warhammer world. So we have ourselves, you know, a truth speaker sitting beside Bretonnian who arrives, a truth speaker sitting beside the Empire group that arrives. They all get dragged over and can come through the mist that then fall because of the machinations of the Dark Emissaries. And we have ourselves a big fight. Lizardmen teleporting in because let's do that. Skaven coming up from beneath. Orcs having a big wah because we all know they love a big fight. Chaos finally swooping in from the north, getting their opportunity to get in there finally. Norskins, which didn't turn up because there's no Norse army, but they were there. Tillians arriving also, but nobody speaks about them because there's no Tillian army that's worth mentioning. And then, hey, let's just not even discuss the Arabians or the but apparently everyone arrives here. Now, clearly, this is an Old One event, so it's mostly all of the surrounding areas of the Old One and the oceans in the north, the High Elves, the Dark Elves, the Lizardmen who teleport in. So we're unlikely to have Nipponese and Cathaeans and Snakemen from Koresh or some equivalent. But we do have all of the locals having a big, huge, massive fight. It's a bit silly, because when we think about it, it's very unlikely a bunch of them would ever even have bothered turning up. But there are certain factions who definitely would have, because this island, particularly once the mists are down, it's covered in warpstone, that's going to attract some, has a magical significance, artifacts of the Old Ones all over the place, an ancient group of humans that have magic that is quite unlike the colleges and what they do.
Completely unique lores.
It's super fascinating as well, and it's also the foundation point of everything that the Jade Order has been focused around, and in many respects says to the Jade Order, hey, you know that thing Teclis told you? Lies! We have the truth right here. But of course, everybody says that, don't they? I have the truth. No, I have the truth. Competing different theological reasons for why they are doing what they're doing. What we have is a whole host of cool shit, and people arrive. And this campaign, we don't need to go into the details. Basically, everyone fights everyone.
Yeah, the big finale is the siege of the Citadel of Lead, with Be'lakor, the Dark Master, totally not Be'lakor, hiding inside it, and the truthsayers are able to get pushed forward enough that they banish him.
Yeah.
But not really. Because the core part to this story is that this event allows Be'lakor to fuck with his curse enough that he doesn't go back into that realm of madness. He becomes a permanent problem from this moment forward.
In many respects, it's one of the signs of the old world. The end times,
yeah.
One of the signs of the end times. And the Albion campaign effectively is, was it going to be really bad or was it going to be different bad? And the answer was it was going to be different bad, because Be'lakor gets free, but Be'lakor is not empowered in the way that he potentially could have been. And that's super cool. We get ourselves a really nice story, and we end up with an Albion that has all manner of factions on it. A big black arc for the Dark Elves have arrived over there. High Elves have landed over there.
Yeah, so yeah, the Dark Elves get and they
up in the north.
Yeah, they determine this by like who won the most battle kind of stuff, and like where it's relevant, because your faction either got cool magic items in a White Dwarf and on the website, or you got some lore stuff. So the Dark Elves beach some land arcs, black arcs up in the north, and build like a functioning settlement, which makes them much more relevant to the old world.
Nagathrin,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Then over on the east, several human cultures of the old world set up a colony.
Yeah, we get Newland. Rather interestingly, the Empire actually sets up a new imperial province. This is forgotten by later lore, but they effectively create a new imperial province, which effectively would have its own count, not necessarily electro count. It depends on which one you go with. As I recall, though, Gorman is put in control of this. Okay, which is proper bonkers as far as the lore is concerned. Just so you understand, that's the Supreme Patriarch of the 8 Colleges of Magic. magic, which, if we go by the dates, can't be because Gelt, by this time, has become Supreme Patriarch. But no, it's Gorman who's there, who becomes the new Elector Count of Newland. Some crazy stuff.
Yeah, and the Lizardmen take over the Forge of the Old Worlds at the Forge of the Old Ones at the heart of the Isle, and they start terraforming. They start terraforming the Isle to be jungle.
Yep.
And what's noted is at this point, the myths have not been restored. They will be, but not yet.
Yep.
And then, hilariously, the 6th edition Lizardman book, to follow this up, comes out and does this really funny thing where it says, a year later in 2522, Krokar basically shows up and goes, everybody get the fuck out. And he just supposedly, he kicks all the Warmbloods, all of them, the new Dark Elves, the new Empire, he kicks everybody out, and Mazda Money restores the myths. The end.
It was, I think, pretty rubbish because it dismissed everything that the truth speakers
the myths should have never been restored. They should have stayed down.
And because if anyone was going to do it, it should have been them. They're the ones that know the thing. It felt like somebody else writing somebody else's story. And coming in and going, oh, I'll just sort of do that now. But yeah, we have ourselves the overall issue resolved. Big fight. Be'lakor's kicked out. The Lizardmen, broadly speaking, take control of Albion. I think that if we're looking at it as the lore in general, that comes from the Lizardmen army list. I'm sure if we had an Albion army list, they would say that the truth speakers, the Albion culture takes control. And they're in a state of vying for power and war. Possibly they put the mists up, trying to hold out the Lizardmen, which just doesn't work. So we have ourselves a lovely little.
But it would make the
conflict
climate more hostile for the Lizardmen.
Yeah, 100%. Completely more hostile for the Lizardmen. I think that's conflict being at the heart of most Warhammer stories. I think probably makes for a more realistic outcome, in that we have ourselves an Albion that is at war with itself come the few years before the end times hit properly, where the Lizardmen have taken control of the old one machines, and on the outside we have the Great Henges and the Geomantic Web, probably controlled by the Albionese, and they're at war with each other inside the island. The Lizardmen army list very much paints a very simple story, but I think, as is often the case, whenever you get the next army list out, it always says, you see that thing you read in the last army list? Actually, we think it happened like this. No. See that thing that happened there? We think it happened like this. And it almost certainly would have been the case if we ever had anything that was even close to an Albion army list.
To me, I think it would have been far more appropriate for the truthsayers to say, like, we will let the Slawn take the Forge, because no one can be trusted with it. Only the Lizardmen can be trusted with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So super fascinating. Oh!
Congrats, Laughing God!
Congratulations! Hiya, Declan! Absolutely delighted to see you in the world.
He made it in time for Lorebeards.
He absolutely did. That is the only thing. Somewhere in the region of about 20 years later, when you are a grown-up version of Declan and you're looking through ancient versions of videos to that pair of weirdos that was there at the point when you were born, I say to you, hi, life is cool. I hope the US hasn't blown up. I hope Europe still exists. I hope everything is going well. And in the world of tomorrow, if I don't have a flying car and you aren't flying around in a flying car, I want to know what the hell is going on. Where's my flying car?
I don't think I trust humans with flying cars.
I don't trust them either, but I still want one.
It's like we're terrible enough with ground cars. You want to add
fair.
2 more directions?
Yeah. So delighted for you, Laughing God. That is astonishing. Congratulations.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say before we get into the kind of the super chats, that I think will take us to the end of the stream, is that Total War did a really cool job with a lot of this stuff. Because, of course, Total War Warhammer has kind of ended up being a lot like Warhammer Roleplay 4th edition, where it sort of just combined everything. Excuse me. And, gave us the Nemesis Crown back, gave us Albion back. And the way they did it was very, very cheeky. And I think actually ties in very well to Albion's old goo nature and the fact that it like possibly moves and stuff, where they play very hard with the idea that everyone involved in the Albion crisis doesn't remember it very well. Where the big character who talks about it is actually Nakai, funny enough. Nakai the Wanderer, who probably would have been there.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Nakai makes a comment, though he speaks... Nakai's speech patterns are very funny because he speaks in a very, very small word count to convey insane things in a very horrifically small amount of space. And what Nakai basically says is something along the lines of he doesn't remember if this is his first time here or if he's been here many times. He thinks he remembers fighting here and purging chaos before, but he's here again, so he'll simply go on. But having this indication that the Albion crisis did happen, but something so fucky went down that the people who fought there don't remember it, which is super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and also makes sense for the general area at hand, in that it's a place that's absolutely saturated with magic, absolutely saturated with Ulgu, absolutely saturated with a variety of hellish potential when it comes to the artifacts that are there and how they could be used. When the Lizardmen take control, when they realize what's here, they don't want others to know just how much is available here. Newland can't be allowed to exist. All these things must be removed. This is a danger to the Great Plan. So removing all of that does make some form of sense. So I'm not against any of that.
That does actually make the idea of the myths being brought back up makes everyone forget.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense because the whole point of the mist is to make that island, everything on it, difficult to reach. And that's not just difficult to reach physically, it's difficult to reach mentally, difficult to reach spiritually. Albion is that weird, strange place that lies beyond. It is, in comparison to, say, the real world equivalent, it's like the high Brazil of that island that lies off the coast that no one ever reaches. Perhaps where amazing stuff is forged in the same way that the old legends of the islands of the UK, where they had magical weapons that were forged there, probably just steel, by the way, just because steel is pretty much like a magic weapon, where things like Excalibur, Caliburn, or some equivalent have been drawn from. And these islands that lie on the place on the edge of the periphery, and Albion takes up many of those myths and repurposes them. And the idea that memories are lashed into that makes complete sense given the way that Warhammer magic works.
Yeah, but at the same time, they also very hilariously, and I think appropriately, made the Citadel of Lead Bellicor's start location. So,
100%.
Did the crisis happen? Is it just about to happen for the first time?
Is it still happening?
Who could say?
All right, well, we go into our super chats again.
Yes.
Hey, Dynaman. Ah, yes, the White Cliffs of Dover. According to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the way to get to Nottingham is to go via both the White Cliffs followed by Hadrian's Wall. 100% accurate. That movie always makes me laugh. It's both absolutely terrible and also a source of much amusement whenever I watch it.
Robin Hood films are always so special in the best ways.
Mornington Crescent. How would a grey wizard who went to Albion find it there? Would they become more potent? Yes. Even more muddled? Yes.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be kind of a mind fuck.
It really would. It wouldn't be great.
I mean, that's like, actually a good way to put it. Imagine putting someone in a space that has too much oxygen and what it does to us. It's not good. You do not want to be in a space with too much oxygen. It's bad.
True fact. Hey, Watchdog! What are the details of Lizardmen, Slant Souls, and Afterlife?
Go watch our Afterlife stream. We get more in depth with it because the essential answers we kind of don't know, but the Slant also don't seem to move on to an Afterlife.
Yep.
Because they're hilarious. They're like, no, I'll just stay here.
Yeah. The calendar. So what I'm taking from this stream is that the original magical language of the old ones was English with a Nottingham accent. Yep.
I mean, considering that everyone in the world speaks with British accents for some reason.
Sure.
Our German faction, yes, they speak British English.
Oh, man. And the voice acting both.
And every video game we ever make will make the Bretonians authentic French and the Cathayans authentic Chinese accents, but the Empire, nope, they're British.
They're British. Darius Rose, weird question. Are there sturgeon in Scotland? So Scotland is an island, which means that it has no fish on it.
Really?
Of course it doesn't, because it's land. Fish live in sea.
Oh, you stupid bastard. Just answer the question.
I don't know. I mean...
Just Google it.
Google it.
God, I'm sorry you wasted your $2.79 Canadian. I apologize for my embarrassing host.
I am indeed a dick. Hey, Dynaman, is there a Boudica equivalent in Albion? Not yet. But there almost certainly should be. Whether you go with Wodicea, Boudica, whatever you want to call her, there would be a warrior queen.
Boudica is the story that has like a pretty bad ending.
Oh, it's a terrible ending.
Yeah,
rising up against the Romans.
What I would find very interesting about that is if they would keep it closer to the original or go more the Rapunzel angle. Because funny enough, Rapunzel has a much happier ending in Warhammer. Not Rapunzel. Joan d'Arc has a much happier Warhammer version than the IRL version, which is cool because that flips your expectations.
Yeah, I think that this is something that should happen. Albion, I think, is waiting for something cool to happen.
Like, actually, if you wanted to fix the Curious Geezer story, having it where the Boudica of Albion won and defeated the Remans.
And he wasn't called Curious
And he wasn't
Geezer.
called Curious Geezer. Yeah.
Fucking hell. Darius, how scary would Albion warriors be? Uber Celts, yes.
They're excellent fighters.
Yeah. I think you're going to get a nice mixture of different Celtic factions as well. So we're going to get different clans and tribes, all of whom have got their own preferences.
Yeah, generally speaking, when I see them mostly described or used, they tend to be like the human equivalent to Wood Elf war dancers. They're very similar.
Yeah, I would probably go with... instead of going with different islands for the different British Isles, Ireland sort of stereotypes, you instead go with different tribes that are spread across the islands in different ways. And I think it could make for a super fascinating army that would be different to what most people expect. Hey, Mechanical Beanstalk. I'm just imagining one of those now. Let's move on. What was the earliest human society in Warhammer Fantasy? That's interesting.
Yeah, technically the Albionese would probably be the correct answer, but you could also argue it might have been people over in Grand Cathay, depending on when exactly. I mean, the answer is we don't know, but you could make some arguments.
Yeah. So in terms of what we have written down,
it's either Albion, the Southlands, or Grand Cathay.
Probably Albion. Yeah, given what we have, but Cathay, the original Cathay, there were humans there really early.
Yeah.
Really
I mean, the fact that the Celestial Dragon Emperor was chatting with the old ones while chatting with humans.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we definitely have an interesting story there. Hey, Phil, what about the dwarf communities from where Malekith was meant to hail from?
Malachite is what I think he meant.
He did.
Yeah. Poor Phil.
So Mackayson, we covered those earlier in the stream, and they almost certainly are the remnants of Norse dwarf, not necessarily invasions.
Well, I think he means when you were thinking about creating those for y'all's Pass the Other One storyline, where would you have put them around now?
Right in the north.
Okay.
Yeah, right in the north. Because you want to support the idea of the Malachite's crazy northern Scottish accent. So you'd be looking to have them up in the northern part of, which makes most sense as well, because that's where you go if you're coming through the Sea of Chaos and then down. You're going to be hitting that area. So making your way over from the Frozen Sea down into there makes complete sense. In the same way that if you look at the Orkneys and Shetland up at the north of Scotland, and Caithness up in the north of Scotland, they were effectively Norse controlled. They were controlled by various groups that we often refer to as Vikings, and were ruled by the King of Norway, for example, for a long time. And to this day up there, many of them still don't even see themselves as Scottish.
To be very clear, I'm in zero pain, which is awesome because that was not the case yesterday. So I'm getting much better. I just sound terrible.
I think you sound great and husky. Canonically, where's the Cathayans in Albion? Canonically, there isn't.
There you go.
But they possibly should be.
Yeah, if they were to redo the Albion crisis, they would just now be there.
Yeah, they would. They would find some way to drag in their way over there. So, I'm not going to do the name again. My kids are back, so I'm popping in the last time just to hear you say my full name. No! Say my name! No! And seriously, you guys are amazing. You really rock. Okay, so...
Just walking in there like, Walter White, say my name.
Przemyslav? That's a dark elf, so it's not... It's It's rather than So it's Przemyslav Barsik? Is it sick or chick? Barczykovski? I don't know Polish names.
I'm just going to call you Kalski.
Kowski. I am almost certainly a million miles away from it. I apologize, but also laugh. Hey, Dynaman, random thought. I think you mentioned a big part of the Albion religion being the land itself. Yes. That seems similar to Kislev. Yes, it does. Which is where the Screaming Tunnels come from. Absolutely. I'm not sure how, but I feel this should be made into a thing. I agree. And that's exactly what I thought when I first read it. I remember reading it back in the day. And going, that's interesting. And then I wrote Kislev bits later and purposely tied a lot of what they were doing through to the land because of that potential. So this was something that was intentional on my part to tie them together. Hey, Hammond, is there a leader in Albion called, I don't even want to try, that's obsessed with giving Cathay to... Oh, right, don't.
No, it's a fucking...
Yeah, probably. Hey, Dynaman, I imagine Cathay as that meme of the cat looking over the wall of snow. The fuck are they doing over there?
Yeah, that's a lot of Cathay, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, not far. Hey, Mornington Crescent, what exactly is the source of the chaos fixation with spikes everywhere? It makes it really hard to pick them up and paint them. You're not freaking wrong.
They were made in the 80s and they thought it looked cool.
Yeah, spikes and skulls are a core component of all Chaos troops because that's cool, right?
Have you seen, like, go look at, like, British clothing 80s? Punk culture 80s.
Yeah. True fact. Hey, Saltor, because Irish myths is all about invasions, yep, I like the idea of replacing the Tuatha De Danann, I've pronounced that wrong, with wood elves, the Firbolg with Fimmer, all being beaten back by humans but having a small groups remaining. I wouldn't replace them with wood elves, I would probably replace them with spirits or an equivalent that look like elves. We already have a variety of spirits that effectively are elves anyway.
Yeah, so essentially like your dryads, dyads.
I would be less interested in effectively copy-pasting, say, Athel Loren to somewhere else because you want that place to be unique.
What would be cool about doing spirits in particular is if they did look like elves, then when elves show up later, the people of Albion are like, oh shit, it's them, and the elves have no idea what they're talking about.
And I think that would work really well because we know that the dryads and the naiads and such like, when they are taking on human form, when they're taking on their natural form, they're not in their war aspect, they look like elves. So there is no reason why we couldn't do that. Keep all of that, but instead not Wood Elves spirits.
Yeah, Laughing God, congrats again on your son, Declan.
Fucking amazing.
Huge congrats.
Yeah,
what a present for us. What a treat.
Yeah, it's the best. I'm so glad for both you and Declan and presumably your wife. I hope she's doing well. Hey, Hieronymus. It would make an interesting story if the Dragon Emperor and Moon Empress sent a small group and their children to Albion during the summer campaign. Agreed.
If you were to do it now, I would be genuinely aghast if Yin Yin didn't show up.
If Yin Yin didn't show up, I'd be like, why the fuck are you ignoring Yin Yin again?
Yep.
That's what I would say. I'd shout it quite loudly. Watchdog 3079. Crown of Sorcery Nagash versus Nemesis Crown.
Nemesis Crown absolutely curb stomps the shit out of Nagash.
Yeah, Nemesis Crown is not a small artifact. It's special. Alaric the Mad made something very different with that.
He made something he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It literally changes fate. Like, it is a bullshit item. Bullshit.
It's great.
The Crown of Sorcery was worn by an orc and it gave him really bad ADHD.
And necromancy.
Yeah, necromancy.
Yeah, don't forget the necromancy. Hey, Dynamite. Oh, here we go. Oh, there's a reach up and go over. Off topic, but I was researching stuff for Vampire the Masquerade because Cain is a big part of that lore, correct? Well, I knew Cain came from biblical Cain, the first murderer. It was today I learned that the Bible one also had a curse, so that the sword curse is also from the Bible. For your information, for Sotek, the Vampire the Masquerade, the curse of Cain is actually vampirism. Yep. So yes, in the real world, Cain absolutely was. The curse of Cain is a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real
that happens over in the Bible. Anything that happens to him, so what happened to that the 7 times over, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, and the curse of Cain it does indeed take its origination as a name or a concept from the Bible. 100%. Lord Sarthinius joining late. Nurgle got Sotek. And he sacrificed him.
You know, it's funny. In most houses, you have a cat to deal with, like, rats and stuff. In the Law household, they have 3 cats because there's just fucking swarms of nurglings all around the house. You have to fight your way in. It's terrible.
Hey, the cats keep him down, so I'm okay.
The cats keep him out. It's true.
Hey Phil, have you addressed the map where Albion was depicted as an archipelago of islands? Yes, we did. Each representation of the 4 modern nations of British Islands, Albany, Erin, Morian. What do you think of the concept?
We spoke about that very heavy in depth.
Yes, we did right at the beginning, and it's worth noting that our conclusion was that that map is not necessarily incorrect.
Yeah.
Dank Matter, salutations, gentlemen. Sotek, I have but one question. Iron Brew, thoughts? Have you had any yet?
No.
Oh, we're going to fix that. I've heard it's the soda equivalent of ambrosia. I'm not necessarily convinced by that.
I've heard a lot of people talk it up, and then I meet more serious people that are like, hey, you should try
It's
it.
all right. Interestingly, I've had quite a few Mexican friends who've said that it tastes almost identical to one of their local drinks.
That would not surprise me in the slightest.
Which it amuses me. The idea that anyone else would make Iron Brew. But sure.
I will say, me and Andy did have a very interesting conversation earlier today about how their Coke tastes more like ours than it used to, which is very interesting. Or it tastes more like ours than the British version does. Because the way...
English.
English, sorry. The way the people down it, I don't know why y'all have to be so confusing. The way it's made down south is weird.
Would you call yourself a New Yorker?
I don't care.
Are you an American?
Yeah.
Are you from Texas?
Yeah.
Scotland, Britain, England.
Yeah, but it's so small. I don't. It's like someone being like, "Are you from Houston?" It's like, no, not really. But like, and getting.
But you're
like,
still not
mad
from
over
Houston.
It. I don't. Y'all care too much.
Cool, Carrion. What would happen if Morsley was ejected from orbit? And as a Texas native, we miss Sotek. Oh.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you very much. So the unfortunate sucky answer is that it would just come back, because it's a dick, and it goes where it wants.
The mistake is thinking that it's not semi-sentient.
Yeah, the lizardmen have tried this.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. They don't realize until way too late that it's not a viable plan because it literally will just come back.
Yeah, Morsleib is a semi-sentient, almost deity. It is not just simply a hunk of warpstone. It is pure magic that orbits the planet and is malicious and is seeking to come down. It's proper broken. And yeah, you could try to get rid of it, but good luck.
Now, theoretically, if you could like shunk it into a black hole, well, then the Warhammer world would become a much better place.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better place. Kurishiba, you guys look cute together.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this has been super fun.
Yay! Hey, Dynaman, an idea to put in Albion would be a reference to Scarabray. I agree. In Orkney, the most complete Neolithic village in Europe, it looks a bit like Hobbiton and is older than the pyramids.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah, much older. I agree. I've been there multiple times, and Scarabray is really cool. When I was a kid, I got, unlike today where most of it's fenced off and you don't get to go into it, when I was a kid, you could just crawl through it. And what was most fascinating, I remember thinking was, these beds are tiny. I'm not even entirely convinced that they were actually the beds that they claim they are, but everything's made of stone. Literally everything. They got their stone shelves, their stone bed, their stone plinths, their stone everything, because there was no wood in the islands at all. None. Interestingly, just as a small aside, Albion was sort of the same at one point. No wood, then there was wood, and then Mordheim came along and said, no, actually, there's big fir forests up there. So, yeah, interesting. But I think that, yes, Scarabray should pop up. You find that places like Scarabray pop up in multiple things.
And he is much like me. We both, when we get passionate, we get loud.
I'm a loud guy.
It is a thing, but
it is.
He's not any. I'll put it this way. My father, without meaning to, is much louder.
Oh, there we go. As is mine, by the way.
Yeah.
We get it from our parents.
Yeah, because fucking giants. Anyway, we were. Oh my god, where were we?
Where were we? We were Scarabray, so we're there.
Yeah, I'll try one. I promise I'll try one.
Hey, Greyfate, thank you very much for suggesting it. And yes, it'll happen. Worry not. Dynaman, posting this mostly to get the flat 2K bits on the stream.
Hey, thanks for earning that badge and supporting Andy. Thank you.
You rock. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's also how many fucking.
Enjoy your stay. And make sure you get some Scottish shortbread. Have you heard of Scottish shortbread?
I don't think so.
Oh, cool. That's put them. In fact, I'm going to make you a Scottish kit.
Yeah, that would be great. Especially if I could take some home with me.
Yeah, that'd
awesome.
be the whole point. Yeah, we'll make you a Scotland kit. I made one when Nathan Long was here. Nathan Long is one of the authors for one of the authors of Go Trick and Felix. And when he came over with his wife, I made them a Scottish kit, which obviously had Iron Brew.
Is he American?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Which he hated. Shortbread, which he loved. We put some Tunnix caramel wafers in there, some tea cakes, and some Scottish poetry because he really loves his poetry.
Actually, so a funny story is that the first time I ever went to Creative Assembly, one of the guys there sent me like a British kit and stuff, but there was so much fucking licorice in it. It was horrible, and everybody hated it. Everybody hated it so much.
And it's seedy bad. But yeah, so he was coming over that time because he was coming over for a concert for one of the games he was writing for, which was Bard Tales 3, which interestingly, the core location in there was Scarabray. So it all ties through to what we're discussing here. There you go. Hey, psych, all the numbers. What is the connection, if any, between the Treemen and Albion's druids, or is the island insulated from Mathaloran by the old ones?
So this is a great question.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I would argue that the Mists of Albion probably cut off Albion from the Oak of Ages. When the Mists went down, that likely reopened that path, hence why the Wood Elves were there. But as far as tree spirits go, something we talked about earlier is that because of that corrupting oversaturating magic rainfall, the spirits of Albion would be in a really bad place.
Or at least a different place, to be out of balance in a weird way.
Yeah, they'd be heavily out of balance.
Yeah, so I think that the connection is loosely they've been disconnected.
Yeah, so imagine instead of coming across a noble but still terrifying tree man, you come across this saggy, bloated, horrid thing that's so oversaturated, and they're going to be hostile. They're going to be very cruel and not nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit broken, and I think that there's almost certainly...
Because they're gonna blame humans for what's happened to them.
Oh yeah. There's going to be tree men over there, spirits of various types. They're all going to be there. This is a spiritually active island and a magically saturated one. So you're going to get all of this, but they are cut off from the rest of the world by the mists. What was done by the original druids.
Yeah, so if your PCs came across them, they will try to kill you.
Yeah,
period.
3 times. Yay! Hey Seth, just looking at the map, I can't find the whales. So yeah, here be Wales.
Yep.
That's over on the western side.
Look up Behemoth. You'll find him.
Yeah, totally. Hey Phil, I don't think you mentioned the time Cetra the Imperial sent that Dark Elf pretender crying back to his mummy's bosom while on his way to Norska. Please keep the record correct. That was a super fun stream. You should go check it out. Who would win?
Yeah, one day we'll bring... I know a lot of people want us to bring those back. One day we will, though I really want to do the format different. But one day we'll bring it back. But tell you what, I'll talk about it with him while I'm here.
Yeah, good idea, because I love the concept, but the idea kept on landing weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Kiss you cowards! I don't want what he does.
I am literally sick. Why are you trying to kill both of us?
I mean, that would be great.
If you saw the stuff that was coming out of me yesterday, you would not say that.
He ate a nurgling. The cats couldn't keep it away in time. Hammond, Britain, the big island. Scotland, inside said island. North America, big landmass. Texas, inside said landmass. Scottish people aren't British. Correct.
I don't care.
That's not true. Scottish people are British.
Yeah, you were trying. They don't like being called English, not British.
Yeah, it's not being called English. I mean, we're not English.
Right.
Yeah, we're not.
Right.
Different people.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Completely different. Are we done?
Yeah, we caught up.
Are we done?
We're almost 10 minutes over time.
Look at that. So first, isn't it great that we get to be together? We're going to be doing something on Wednesday, assuming that Sotek doesn't die.
Oh, no, I think we definitely will.
And we'll be advertising that probably on Monday, maybe Tuesday, because we're still sitting about trying to figure out what would make for the coolest thing.
I think I know what I want to do.
Oh, he knows what we want to do. If you want to try and influence that decision, we do have threads open on both Sotek's Discord and my Discord. And if you've got any extra ideas for what we could do this Wednesday, do throw them in. We will be streaming probably at around about 10 p.m, but maybe a little bit earlier, particularly if Sotek's still feeling a little bit poorly, just to make sure that he gets a good night's sleep for the next day. So we might stream a little bit earlier than normal. We'll decide after this stream.
I mean, we almost certainly will, because I have to leave Thursday morning.
Yeah, you do. So let's do it earlier. So let's call it at now that we'll almost certainly be starting around by either 8 or 9.
Yeah, I think 8 would be good.
8 would be good. Because
so that'll be 2 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll do that 8 p.m. UK time on the Wednesday, assuming that everybody is still living. We'll obviously be doing Lawhammer on the Friday right after, which will be the ramifications of everything that occurred when Sotek joined us.
Also, the episode will be out tomorrow.
And the episode, if you'd like to watch the episode when good old Sotek joined us, will be live on Monday. In fact, I'm going to go check while we're live just to see, I don't need that running anymore, whether Aaron, our corner goblin, has got that thing going.
Everybody's got a bone to pick with England. You know, for how small it is, it's really impressive how many people they've pissed off over the centuries.
It's fair to say we pissed them off as much as everyone else because it was the British Empire, sadly, which sadly includes us, no matter how much we try.
You can throw them under the bus, it's fine.
One of the biggest amusement is that it also includes the Irish, although they like to distance themselves from it, because they were a part of the British Empire too. But they wisely got the hell out when they could. We did not, because we're stupid. So yeah, that will be this Monday for the episode, this Wednesday for us together, the Friday for the Lawhammer and the ramification, and next Sunday for, you'll find out when we post it.
Nothing.
We
Nothing. I'll be traveling.
Oh yeah, you're traveling next Sunday, so nothing on the Sunday. We'll be live probably the Sunday after that.
Yes,
We've already decided what we're doing for that one, haven't we?
Yes, we have. The Blood Vote up. If they won, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they
pretty sure it's Blood Dragons.
Pretty sure it's Blood Dragons. So it'll be Blood Dragons in 2 weeks' time. But beyond that, thank you all so much for turning up. You all kick ass and
I
chew
am
gum.
feeling this so hard right now. Morning to you don't even know. Every day I wake up and check.
Again, not the English, British. Sadly, I'm as much at fault in terms of cultural heritage as anyone else, no matter how much I try to distance myself from such things. Sadly,
Fucking jerks.
So, beyond that, have yourself a marvelous day. We are done with our large attempts of shouting at this end about Albion and all the cool stuff that happened over there.
The last.
At a Scottish food.
It's him. He's just trying to. It's him being stupid. Also, I just want to say thank you for the very generous support this episode.
Oh,
We
it's been
appreciate
lovely.
it.
You have been absolutely lovely out there. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. As he attempts to